folks, welcome back to the Stuniverse. We're here for another episode. This is a Stu-less episode. Stu is actually off fighting the Battle of Winterfell right now. Thoughts and prayers go out to all of those up there in the north. I've heard we've lost some people. No word from Stu yet. Hopefully what are those birds called?
Crows, ravens,
ravens,
doves, pigeons.
The ravens. Hopefully a raven is sent to let us know that he's okay. But in the meantime, we're here to review Avengers Endgame. Everybody is talking about it. It's very highly anticipated. 22 films, 11 years, massive cast list, gigantic budgets, lots of logistics and tons of PAs getting coffee for people.
Yeah.
Like that's at the end of the day, I think about all the coffee that PAs had to go get and all the weird stuff they had to do for all the actors. But yeah, we're here to talk about that. Here to talk to us about that here is, of course, Mr. Ryan Tidwell. Has been on some Stuvies before. Say hello, Ryan.
Hello.
And
hello.
We got Aaron Adams back again.
I'm back.
Yeah, glad to have him here.
Man,
Here to talk about we're all some big comic book nerds ourselves. Stu's not as much of a comics guy, but I'm not as much of a horror guy. So you may see some horror podcasts with him and some other guests.
First off, what podcast is Stu going to be on with whores? Because that's the podcast I want to be on.
I have a speech impediment. A horror podcast.
The
But yeah, so we're trying a couple of different things, and yeah, so we're gonna sit here, we're gonna break down the movie, talk about some of the things we liked.
First,
absolutely.
Can't you just I feel like we should just sum it up with a sentence. Each of us just sum it up with the movie, what we thought with a sentence. I'm gonna go first. Honestly, after 22 movies, culmination of almost a decade. Looking back at all the good times, all the characters, all this stuff that we've been through, all the development, we lost a couple people along the way, and honestly, I just can't believe they fucked it up this bad. I'm kidding. That was a joke. I love that movie. I've seen it 3 times.
I was about to say, this is going to get real interesting.
They don't know what each other's opinions are.
Yeah, we don't know each other's opinions.
Red versus green, folks. Let's go.
Red Power. Oh, shit. No, it was my Red Power Ranger. It was like the Green Power Ranger takes over after the Red Power Ranger. Then it becomes the White Power Ranger. Wait, White Power Ranger? No, Green Power Ranger was bad?
Green Power Ranger was bad originally. He was created by Rita.
That's right.
And then converted later.
And then he became the White Ranger and was good. What does that say? Irish people? Like, Tommy was Irish.
Well, considering it's based on a Japanese show.
Okay, see, but what keeps me up at night is how he's calling the Dragon Zord with a flute that he's playing with his helmet on. And it's a synthesizer that sounds like a trumpet.
I don't know. Maybe he's got an emergency induction port like Tali does in Mass Effect. And it's like a little tiny straw that pops out and it connects to the ocarina sword.
I don't want to break away from this, but which alien Mass Effect did you want to fuck more?
Man, I really wanted to get underneath the suits for
Tali.
Yeah.
I was about Tali. I was like, she's just so mysterious.
That booty though.
She had a fat ass.
And
if there's one thing you need to know about me, is I love fat asses.
Up until y'all mentioned that, I did not know what y'all were talking about, and then I remembered Rule 34. And I was like, okay, all right, now I know. Now that's the only frame of reference I have for Mass Effect.
In Rule 34. There's a whole ship devoted to them in the fleet.
Oh my gosh!
You could, to be fair, you could bang her in the game, I believe.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
I don't know the logistics behind it, and I'd be interesting to find out. So if anybody would like to subscribe, and share your Rule 34 fan fiction of
the one where Tali doesn't die from a bacterial infection afterwards. That one would work. I'm getting real deep in the nerddom here. I'm going to go ahead and calm it down.
Actually, I haven't beat Mass Effect 3 yet, so please avoid spoilers. It's something I'm trying to get to eventually after the DLCs become free.
Please spoil it in the comments below.
15 years later.
So we're here talking about Avengers Endgame. As if you can't tell, we're here to talk about Endgame. And Ryan, you were saying we wanted to sum it up in one sentence?
Yeah, one sentence. Made a joke about how much it sucked. But I'm actually still floored. It's probably one of my favorite movies in a long time.
Yeah.
It was, I wouldn't say it's flawless, as just because there's a lot of logistics behind it to make the plot work, and there's MacGuffins involved, and
when time travel gets involved, it always gets sticky.
It's always sticky.
We mentioned it earlier as we were talking. This kind of came out, and maybe we can get to the debate a little bit later. But I kind of feel like I love this movie a whole lot, but I feel that Infinity War was a better complete story and film. And we can hash out on that. But if I was to give a sentence to this, I would say that's America's ass. That's the.
That was such a great line. God.
There's great. Actually, y'all keep talking. I forgot to grab my notes from over here. I'd probably need those.
If I had to really sum it up, I would probably. I don't even think I would need a sentence. I would probably just say satisfying.
Bring me another. I didn't mean to hit you with it. You just walked right in front of it. Perfectly.
But for me, it was pretty satisfying throughout the whole movie because I hate when movies are cut too short or they try to take a finale and break it and like monetize off of it. Like the last Harry Potter, it should not have been 2 movies.
Yeah, this absolutely deserved to be 2
movies.
movies.
It needed those 3 hours.
Or
I feel
The
like
Hobbit.
yeah.
They didn't need 3 movies.
No, they could have done it in one shot.
It's the first time we've seen the Avengers avenge, I think.
Yeah.
Like it really.
There was a lot of emotion behind their
Right.
actions.
Right.
But for me, it was satisfying just to kind of see everything close. I feel like honestly, I would have stuck around for like 30 more minutes of wrap up.
I feel like it was its perfect length, but if it was any longer, I would have been fine. If they would have said it's 4.5 hours long, I would have been like, all right, I'll just sneak in another.
Right.
There we go.
Time to get a
just look up like bathroombreaks.com. Like when is it safe to take a bathroom break?
diapers, colostomy bags,
Actually, I had to
whatever.
tell my girlfriend. She's like, I have to pee. I was like, all right, I'll tell you when the perfect time to go to the bathroom is. And I did. And then she was back. And I think
When was it?
It was when was it? It was
That's a great question.
Right
When is
around the
perfect time?
time that they were about to do the time travel, because pretty much just
with Ant-Man going into the different ages of himself.
Clint going back and grabbing the baseball glove.
It's like, to prove that time
Yeah.
travel
Okay,
was
okay,
actually
okay.
working.
That's
I feel like that's the. I mean, you don't really need to be there.
To me, I think the scene that I feel like I could have gone to the bathroom in is when Tony meets his dad. I could have been. I could have gone.
Well, if you're not a big Tony Stark fan in the series, like to me, I'm kind of indifferent to him because he's been like so many of the movies has been centralized around him. Like Spider-Man is centralized around Iron Man. However you want to look at it,
It absolutely is.
He's in it. He's got his fingers in a lot of things. So to me, I'm indifferent to Iron Man, and I felt it was fitting in the end how it ended.
Right. Spoiler alert, by the way. If you don't know, we're going to completely
man.
spoil
if you
everyone
haven't watched
shit
this
out of this
and
movie.
yeah.
I can't believe Ant-Man expanded in Thanos' ass. It was
Yes.
fucking the Mad Men did it.
The Thanos theory. the Thanos paradigm. Absolutely. But okay. We'll go into this and start talking about the movie from the very beginning. I mean, starting off with, we have Hawkeye, no music, just opening up on him with his family.
As soon as I saw who it was in the first scene, I knew what was going to happen.
I was pretty
Inevitable.
the fact that wasn't the end scene of Infinity War. I just assumed that was going to happen.
Of course.
in the next movie.
Of course.
It was kind
It
of
was
just
very
like
implied.
Like Hawkeye wasn't really in it. Like I can see him coming back.
Right. Have either of y'all watched The Leftovers?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's a show on HBO, incredible show. Basically, 2% of the world's population just disappears out of thin air, kind of Rapture-y, but no clothes, just everything's gone. And there's one particular character that loses everybody in her family. She loses her husband and her 2 kids, and it's very rare that someone loses everyone like that. And so I kind of had that feeling that when he had all of that and everybody was getting snapped away, I was like, I bet they're going to kind of go for that angle, and very much they kind of went down the same path. And my favorite part of that scene is you can tell something has happened. He turns away for a second, he's gone, and you can hear everything in the background. You can hear planes crashing, like the.
Oh shit! I did not hear that.
Yeah. Did y'all not notice that? I'm pretty sure it was that, and not the theater next to me making a bunch of noise. Because when I was watching it again on this, it happened when I was watching it here, and so, so yeah,
So what you're trying to say is, you pirated the movie.
No. I was watching
Disney
clips. I
Call
was
the
watching
police.
clips on Vimeo. Blame those people.
Disney police.
But so no, but yeah, I noticed the sound design because there was no music, and then the music kicks in, and it's the music obviously playing on the Guardian ship, and we move over to Tony giving his little message there, and
Ooh, so wait, before we go further.
Sure.
I thought it was very nice of Tony to try and bond with Nebula.
Absolutely.
I feel like
with the paper football.
I feel like he was
which
working
paid
real
off
hard.
later.
Yeah, it did.
Yes, absolutely.
The paper
The
football, letting her win. I feel like the first time she's ever actually won something in her life, 'cause she didn't know how to take it. She was like,
I like this. This is fun. Let's do more.
fair game.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I feel like Nebula is probably the MVP. Is one of the MVPs. Just
Sure.
because
She
just had so much character development.
She had a lot of
in the
character
past
development,
yeah.
but like, man,
I wonder
she
if
had
they knew
some
that
issues,
Yeah.
for the whole cause of like the time stream malfunction near the end.
Ooh, let's go in sequential
Well,
order.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to that. Do you think that Nebula, do you think they knew where her character was headed when they wrote the earlier Guardians movies, like Guardians 2, having her turn into a good character? We can talk on that later too.
Honestly, I felt like she would have died before this point.
okay.
Honestly, I felt like if anyone was gonna die, she was a safe pick to die.
Mhm.
Yeah, that
as-
makes a lot of sense.
I pegged that she was gonna die in Infinity War. Actually, let's see, where was she? She was on Titan, right?
Yes,
She
she was on
was on
Titan with Tony.
I figured she would have been. I guess Thanos would have just been like, "Oh, you bitch."
Been a waste of parts.
Yeah, waste of parts.
Exactly. So, yeah, that the Tony and Nebula stuff I thought was really well done. I've remember seeing when I saw Endgame in theaters for the first time. It was so harrowing seeing Tony being like emaciated, and you could tell he hadn't eaten, and like Nebula's giving him the last bowl of whatever space food they got. And
It was, I believe, Hershey S'more Munch.
oh, yes. Shout out to Hershey's S'more Munch. It is delicious and costs $7 at Office Depot.
This podcast is brought to you by Hershey's and Audi.
That's right. Shout out to
To
Audi.
be fair, if there's anything Endgame made me want, it was a fucking Audi. It was that electric Audi.
Future Audi, yeah.
supposedly they're supposed to be like that was their tease. Is they're supposed to be getting released.
There's been a bunch of product
What?
placements of cool cars in, like, you remember in Demolition Man, Sylvester Stallone, I think he had like a Mercedes.
He had like a
or-
99 Toyota Corolla.
And then I think in like iRobot, Will Smith's car was a Lexus or something like that, where they
They had the round. Dude,
stylized
I was
it.
like, man, how the fuck
future
do those wheels?
car.
How do those
That was
wheels
great.
work? I imagine they were like electromagnetic. We're getting off topic.
Yeah, it's really easy. Sorry.
Wait, was Paul Bettany the robot
What
in
robot?
iRobot?
No, that wasn't Paul Bettany. No, that was Alan Tudyk.
Alan. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who that was.
So Nebula and Stark at the in the ship in the beginning of the movie.
Right. So and then makes his message to Tony, and then a lot of people had speculated how Tony was going to get out of space, how they were going to go get him, and I thought, obviously these movies are a tie-up to every other Marvel movie, so they showed the end credit scene in Captain Marvel, but there was no moment where like Rocket finds the location on the Benatar and like knows where the ship is, or how do you first off a spaceship supposedly isn't even supposed to stop moving in space, like when it runs out of gas it should just keep.
That was irritating because they showed it like floating motionless. I'm like, and then he stated they found a way to rig the engines up for like 20 minutes or something like that.
Oh, you said 48 hours. So they got a 48-hour boost, and I was like,
So I'm like, okay, so accelerate to maximum speed, your terminal velocity, shut the engines off, and save the rest of your energy that you might
the only
have
thing
for
I think
maneuvering
about
afterwards. It still wouldn't
is-
have mattered in the vastness of space. But
Right.
I think that maybe they were moving so they couldn't control it. So maybe they drifted too close to an orbit or something like that.
Okay,
They
like
installed
it slowed him
There's-
down and just caught them.
it's something to overlook, but I mean, out of all the
Yeah.
things, I'm
But
like,
yeah, but then Captain Marvel shows up and has the big savior moment. And a lot of people thought it was going to be rescue. It was going to be Pepper Potts showing up because there had been photos of her with the outfit on and like green screen legs and all kinds of stuff. And so I was thinking, Pepper would show up in the suit somehow, or they would track him down from his Iron Man suit having some sort of receiver in it. So either way, they didn't feel it was necessary to show us how to do that. They just wanted to get everybody back together again. And that leads us to probably my favorite, like the moment that caught me really, really off guard with having, with it seeming like more than just a comic book movie, like a sheer epicness, is when the spaceship is coming around you kind of hear Cap is shaving in the in the Avengers facility, and then he feels the rumble and he comes
Porsche
outside. Come to find out, that's the Porsche driving test facility in Atlanta, which I was just at.
Cool.
I took Daniel to just a couple of days ago, and that's what they used for the Avengers facility. So when the spaceship is coming around, the score is playing, and I believe the score is titled Alan Silvestri did. It's called Arrival, and blew me away completely. It felt very much like at this point I was like, this is already one of the best scores used in one of these Marvel movies. It felt so epic and grand, and it had kind of a pomp to it, or like a marching vibe. And so it gets down to them reuniting again, and Tony comes up. I think Cap is the first person to come see him, and we couldn't stop him. They both say it to each other, and the first thing that Tony is like, "I lost the kid," That got me so hard, and Cap's like, "We lost."
Before
him.
we start getting into the heartstrings, can we?
Yeah.
Can we talk about Captain Marvel? What you guys thought about it? Because I don't think we've had a podcast since it came out.
Sure. The movie itself.
Yeah, the movie itself.
You'll have to fill me in because it's like they came out so close.
It's honestly
with this.
missable.
I didn't even watch it.
It's
I
honestly
did not find a
missable.
chance
Like, there was
to get
not-
it. There was too much going
It
on.
honestly, I would rate
It's
Captain
whelming.
Marvel. I felt like it was basically
like Thor 2.
Thor 2. That's basically what I felt like, because there's like really no like universe building.
It kind of is.
It's kind of like
It's
we need an
they had-
excuse to make this character a thing.
The problem with
and
Captain
bring him
Marvel
in.
and
is
then they have a
that-
problem with her in the movie. They have to make her disappear.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
See, the thing about Captain Marvel was she suffered from the same thing that Thor originally suffered from. It was kind of not very charismatic, kind of just blah, kind of there. Well, I mean, even Thor was more charismatic. At least he was making jokes and doing all this other stuff.
In the first one, he was getting there, but then you could tell his exposure to humans kind of like put another layer onto him.
Exactly.
But
And in the Dark
yeah.
World, he was kind of just meh. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of exact same way I felt about Captain Marvel. And I was like, it was kind of sad to see, because after all this time, I mean, after what, 20 more movies, well, maybe 17 more movies, I figured they had, kind of gotten the character they wanted, but it just didn't feel right.
Right.
Like,
I
it
really
felt like
don't
it was like
Captain Marvel. Like maybe it's the actress that they picked. I don't know, or the way that
I
they're
don't
directing
mind-
her.
That is what I feel. I feel more so than her ability as an actor. I feel it's how they directed her, because you notice they didn't show a lot of dialogue clips of her in the trailers at all. And if you
I don't
look
remember
back,
any words she says. The only thing I remember
Right.
from that movie is Samuel L. Jackson talking.
Right, exactly. And it's very much so she doesn't come across like a character. She comes across like a plot device in the movie,
Or a tool
in
or
Captain Marvel, and very much so. It seems that that's kind of her use right now, and seeing where Endgame goes and where they leave the original female character from the Avengers, and they've already killed off two. They killed off one of the female Guardians, even though she may be still around, and
I feel like they pretty much shoehorned in Captain Marvel.
I feel so.
I feel
too.
like they didn't even need to put it out. So
Right.
put it out. They could have just waited for that to be one of the first
Right.
things for Phase 4. Polish it a bit, and
It seems like Captain Marvel could have been summed up in a flashback.
I mean, honestly, all we needed to know is Nick.
Well, they were originally supposed to introduce her in Age of Ultron. Originally, in that final scene when it cuts, when Cap is like Avengers, they had used the templates of CGI for Scarlet Witch flying down. That was originally supposed to be Captain Marvel, and she was going to get introduced at some point in that movie, but they decided against it and still kept the. They used that for Scarlet Witch's little fly down scene.
I think the one issue I have is I honestly don't even remember how. I know like she got her powers from like a space engine blowing up or something like that.
It was an Infinity Stone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's powered by
it's from
an
the
Infinity-
Tesseract.
right,
She's
yeah.
powered by the
Tesseract.
Tesseract. That's the big spoiler in the movie, is the Tesseract is one of the main things, and that kind of seems like they put that in there.
They use that thing for everything.
Right. It was
It's like
very,
it was Loki's scepter. It was the portal device.
Well,
It's been all this. It fucking powers the Transformers.
well, the Mind Stone was Loki's scepter.
The cube. Oh wait, that was Spark.
That's the Mind Stone.
oh, okay.
Gotta get the Spark.
But no, they use it like that. Nanette Bening is in it as Marvel, and she's also the Grand Intelligence or whatever. And apparently she is secretly a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they have been holding on to the Tesseract for a long time, ever since they found it with Captain America back in the day. And there's a lot of things that, like, the movie raises more questions about what we already know, because it takes place in the 90s. It very much kind of retcons things and makes you question. It's like, okay, well, how did he get it here if they already had it? Did they have it and then lose it and then get it back and nobody said anything? It's just...
That's one of the things I wish
Yeah.
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been about. as opposed to being in the present day, I thought it'd been a great.
Winter Soldier put that to shit though. That's the problem with that is they were going to do a lot more and then Winter Soldier made them change.
True. True, but I think it'd have been really cool to see like a 70s version of Shield. Like just like in between.
Yeah, because then we could have had like Michael Douglas.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That'd have been dope to see him in the final battle. Okay, but that's pretty much all I wanted to say about Captain Marvel. I kind of just felt like you don't even really need to see it. Like all you need to see is her
review.
To me, it's a little bit weird that the ship that they were traveling in that she was pushing maintained light speed outside of a warp bubble. Maintained its structural integrity from deep space, pushing at beyond light speed in order to get there before his air ran out, which was already running out.
Your Star Trek, your skills from all the things you've learned are coming out.
It's just
that Star Wars
Kerbal Space Program and Elite Dangerous has taught me much about
Kerbal
space
Program.
Yeah, but the moment you actually make something go to orbit and stay there, you're like.
I made something get really close to orbit. It was like right on the brink.
Yeah.
I had spent hours trying to make this fucking thing work.
Yeah.
Like
it blows your mind the first time you realize. You mean you just don't go straight up? You have to go at an angle and
even
with
the tutorial,
adjust orbits.
Even with the tutorial, like I fucking don't know what I'm doing at all.
Yeah. But anyways, we're talking about the vastness of space. They had to travel through warp, like the gates that they
right or the
they go through to get
little...
through. Ship has no power unless she somehow powered it. And just kind of like latched onto it as it went.
Right.
That could be something. But if she's just straight up pushing it, the centrifugal, the force that's her pushing that mass would, she would be pushing through the ship rather than pushing the ship because all your points of contact are just your two hands.
Well, see,
that goes straight through the metal.
That is a great point. However, for the oxygen thing, I would just assume that they stopped on another planet. Like they said, there's just no place around them.
Refuel.
Yeah, not refuel, just to get supplies. I mean,
come in, open the hatch. All right, suck it all in, y'all.
Right,
we're going back out.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay,
can you grab me some munchies while you're out there?
But yeah, that was something that I like. The more I thought about it, I'm like, how did she make it back with enough air for him to? He was already right on the edge.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure that's why Nebula put him in the seat.
Yeah, because you're done now.
Right.
Here you go.
Yeah. Right.
And so he's basically out of air. And how long is it going to take you to get back to Earth from wherever that is and keep the ship intact?
That's a really good point.
Because she's just going. She doesn't need to worry about course navigation for her person. But how are you going to anticipate not hitting asteroids or a celestial body or anything else if you're traveling that fast and your head is behind the ship?
Well, okay, she's Supermaning the ship.
I get real deep into this.
She's Supermaning the ship, and she pushes it through light speed, and because of her, her coming in as quick as she did to destroy Thanos' ship later on in the movie,
spoiler.
So maybe she ended up maybe she ended up pushing the ship that fast, and because she was a part of it, her energy was force fielded to that.
Yeah, and there's did she show any kind of energy manipulation type abilities, or is it all physical for her?
No, she's got she's got a beam or space beam.
Okay, so she's got space beams and shit. There's reasonable control to that she might be able to
So I think she has the ability to she can carry people while she's flying, and she can fly super fast while carrying those people. So
so she survives. Those people have all the oxygen.
My nerdism is satisfied.
You're sufficed. Okay. All right. Good. So yeah, we get to Tony getting back with Steve and everybody, and reunites with Pepper, and they have the sad moment about Peter, and then they're all sitting in there talking, and Cap is just ready to come up with a plan. He's like, "What are we doing?"
I loved this part.
This scene, I more than almost any other scene in the movie, had me just up on my seat, oh my god, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
It was Tony, a great display of acting too, because it's
I want him to get an Oscar nomination for this role. This movie specifically, I think he deserves a supporting actor nod or lead actor, whatever they would give him for this. But yeah, him being space crazy and just kind of he's super unhealthy, and he knocks his cereal over and pulls his IV out, and he's just he's talking about building a suit of armor around the world.
Liar.
He's just calling Cap out, and is like, I needed you, past tense. He's like, I got nothing. I'm done. Here, take this. And just rips his heart out and hands it to Cap and passes out on the floor. that whole thing it felt like just one of those increasing moments of tension where it just goes and goes and goes, and
Well, at least
completely.
throughout
So.
Civil War to now.
Yeah, it was kind of like the resolution to the Civil War finally.
His
'cause that was-
PTSD all the way from after Avengers through Iron Man 3, through Age of Ultron, him creating Ultron, and the whole reason he needed that is because he was afraid of this exact thing happening. And so for him, he just feels completely validated. And, you know, it takes time, and he had to – it took those 5 years of him putting a life together for himself to get to the point where he felt he could make a difference again.
Yeah.
So then they figure out where Thanos is, or Nebula knows where Thanos is. And this all happens real quick. Like, obviously, we know now from the trailers that the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie is in
23 days later.
Is like 90% of the trailers is just the first
bit,
you know, and so everybody was thinking, well, let's go get this son of a bitch was going to be towards the end of the movie, but no, they go ahead and they take care of it
20 minutes in.
real
Yeah.
quick. They're just like, okay, he's at the garden. Cool, we'll go. Let's go assassinate him,
Man.
and just
Thor,
Well,
though.
well,
Thor was
they
so
didn't they
broody.
didn't plan to assassinate him. They were there, but because they thought that he still might have the stones.
right.
To be fair, I did too. The fact that he destroyed them was a complete blindside on my end. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah, like I was kind of trying to figure out, like they detected another like snap, so to speak.
Right.
And
I was
like,
thinking,
well,
like,
what
maybe-
was this snap for?
I was
And
thinking
then-
like Adam Warlock because they teased him a while ago, like for Guardians 2. I was like, maybe
yeah,
not the
comic
only
comic book wise, he would have been the only one that they could
stand up to Thanos.
Yeah, because he was his brother or whatever. But the that whole which characters were present for that?
Okay, so
that scene?
who's never been to space before? So the ones that have never been to space before: Cap, Rhodey, Clint, and Nat didn't go with them.
Was Clint
Did
with
she?
them? Was Clint with them when they went to?
No, you're right. It wasn't. It wasn't.
'Cause
Clint.
he's
It
out
was-
of the picture. He's
yeah,
going
that's
fucking Punisher mode right off the
that's
bat.
right. That's right. He's Ronaning right now. So okay. So no, it was Thor, Cap, Rhodey. Iron Man didn't want anything to do with it. Nat,
Rocket.
Banner. 'Cause he had
Rocket,
Hulkbuster.
Nebula,
Oh, yeah,
and
he had-
Banner
he had
in
his
the
Hulkbuster
Nebula
Speaking
suit.
of, where the fuck did they put Hulkbuster at? No, it didn't fold down into a briefcase or some shit like that. I can't remember how they did that.
I don't know. Well, it's not too big that I think you couldn't fit it on
A starship like that.
yeah. Well, on the they didn't put it. Did they put it on the? They didn't take the. Yeah, they took the Benatar. They didn't take the Quinjet.
No.
So yeah, so they all show up, and Captain Marvel, of course, is with them too, and she surveys the
that's
planet.
Right. That's
and
I was about to say she was the one that was like basically holding the bulk of him.
right, exactly, and he doesn't even have one offensive move toward them at all. At one point, you think that he's using the stones somehow to like raise up the ground, and it ends up being Hulkbuster coming out from underneath the house,
Holding onto his arm.
Yeah, holding onto his arm and grabbing him. Because when I first saw that, I was like, oh, he's like using the Reality Stone or something and raising it up. But no, he admits to them that he had destroyed it, and so they feel completely hopeless.
First
and,
step, they fucking cut his arm off.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Oh, yeah. Thank you very
they were
much.
not
like,
fucking around.
yeah, they were just
They're-
like
yeah.
you know, Strange wasn't with them to use a portal, but they
But
silenced
Stormbringer
those.
just came right in and he lopped it off.
Yeah, lopped it off. Saw that they were gone, and what was it you were saying about Thanos' attitude at this point with how he was treating Nebula and kind of he was very yeah.
Let's see. What did I say? Damn it! This is why we shouldn't talk about shit.
exactly.
I was gonna say that that Thanos throughout the Infinity War saga, or at least the Infinity War movie, the closer he becomes to his goal, the more compassionate he becomes to the people or to his plan, and for all the stuff he's about to change. And you see, even after the snap, his plan isn't to go off and become a king. It's to go off and just live peacefully,
Right.
And reflect on the things he's done because in his story he is the good guy. And so when Nebula's there, and he's like, perhaps I was too harsh on you. And then then he gets his
He's
head
like,
cut off.
"Thank you, daughter."
Yeah.
Right. And we're treated to go ahead.
Oh, but and yeah, it just seems like after the snap, all ill intentions, all aspirations kind of left. He had no purpose.
Well, that's the beautiful part about
Yeah.
Thanos, and that's why he's such a magnetizing character. Like every scene that he's in, you want as soon as that scene's over, we need to go back there. He did not have emotions attached to any of his actions. They were all a means to an end.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
It was just his objective. He didn't have anything personal against
Until
any of his
the end of this movie.
Yes.
until that.
I was gonna get to that. We could talk about that there because
But there was
past
nothing
Thanos.
personal against any of the species that he wiped out. It was all in a goal to find the stones,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why he's such an interesting character. And he always had this like very wise outlook when it comes to things, like and very logical evaluations. And it's like the only reason that they would do like when he was looking at the past through the other nebula, he was like the only reason that they would be this, like for lack of all the exact words or whatever, the only reason that they would be this intent on coming back is it means that I succeeded.
Exactly. This is destiny fulfilled. When he sees what we're getting to is the most PG-13 decapitation in any movie, and it's I think it's so well. It speaks to the filmmakers to how they can really have this movie and Infinity War especially more so than any other of the MCU films are a lot more violent and a lot more brutal in their in the Foley design for the way a punch hits or a knife going in is it sounds much more visceral. I've noticed they've given it much more of a Mortal Kombat type quality to it. And so when Thor goes for the head and cuts his head off, Thanos' head is already a quarter off the screen. And so by the time he hits it falls off so quick that it's just like half a frame, and then his head's gone and it cauterizes the wound. And
then you just see him fall backwards, so you can't see
you see him fall backwards, and then when Nebula goes to look at his head, you see it from just this much up, and it doesn't show.
It's like the perfect editing to get around.
Right, exactly. They want to show that brutality and imply that, like in a comic book, they wouldn't need to do all that. Most likely, they could probably get away with a whole lot more than the MPAA would allow. But I just thought that was so artfully done, and it was like they didn't show the head roll. I think there was one like plop of the head, like a sound of the head hitting the ground and maybe rolling.
Sounded like a bowling ball hitting the
exactly.
And then who asked what did you do?
Rocket.
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 Like,
you know,
it's like I went for the head.
I went for the head, and then he's just like, okay, and then that brings pretty much the whole point of the movie is just like, what now?
Yeah.
You know, then the movie really, 5.
Yeah, 5 years later.
And it's so slow. I felt that was a really slow 5 years later thing. Like it just maybe they were trying to be really impactful with it.
I feel like it was trying to really sell the gravity of it's like this is 5 years later and it's not magically going away. Because
there's still
if they found a way to make it like turn back to just post snap,
right?
It wouldn't have been as impactful. Like it wouldn't have made
exactly.
They flashed a couple things. It was kind of like a prelude to letting people know, like this is the way that the world is now. Like there's no magical way to turn it back.
There's been an apocalypse here, and now this is post-apocalyptic world that they're dealing with.
And that was one of the things I'm really glad they touched on, as they touched on at least with Steve, because I mean, in which movie was it where he comes back and he's in the group? I think where he meets Sam or some shit like that.
Oh, that's a Winter Soldier.
He's in the group, group chat, the AIM, the old instant messenger with people.
Right.
But now he's leading it, and I thought that showed tremendous.
Do you think he wasn't any kind of Captain America at that point? Because when he shows up at the Avengers facility later on, it looks like Nat's been running things and Cap kind of is just living his life. Not like it's almost like he came back out of retirement to do the time travel thing. I think that means the water is done.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, Cap is my favorite hero. He always has been. I've always been a big fan of people who aren't super, who just do super things.
Mm-hmm. I think like I could stand to take a break from his more like blatantly patriotic kind of stances that he's had in comic books and stuff. But as far as the movies go, they don't sell him to be like this perfect person. They sell him to be somebody that's got some flaws still.
And that was one of my favorite things, at least about the first Avenger.
He was perfect.
I love the ideas of the first Avenger. Oh, okay. Was because I mean it did pay homage to all of that traditional America shit, and then at the same time it's showing him he's like, this isn't me. I want to be on the front lines with my boys.
Yeah,
right.
I want to use the powers that you've given me for the best way to do it. Like you could get any buff dude in a Captain American suit to do the propaganda.
Yeah. Right.
Why
exactly.
are you wasting?
Do you think that we'll get more World War II Cap at any point? Any
Honestly,
more stories?
I thought a fantastic show would have been
different wars, like him going through.
Well, no, just World War II and what was it, the Howlers, the Howling
Commandos.
I just thought the Howling Commandos having their own show would have been great.
Honey. Thank you.
But
how are these peach packets?
Fucking delicious. We also have tasty orange.
Oh, is the peach gone? Is that the one you threw at me?
Oh no, I threw one of them.
Oh.
I used one of the boxes as trash.
Oh. You trash. Garbage. You'll always be garbage.
Sponsored,
Now with more fruit flavor.
sponsored by
Brought to you by Lipton. Contains soy. This unit is not labeled for retail.
He's good.
Yeah.
Makes me want to give up voiceover. And he hadn't even started it yet.
Okay.
So okay, where we're at? We were talking about
Cap being in the thing. Everybody trying to get over their issues.
Right.
It's- well-
Moving on with the world.
Yeah, and Black Widow, or Natasha, I mean, they explain it quite well in the movie that the reason she never moved on is because she didn't have anyone to move on with. I mean, Steve Rogers didn't either, but at that point, he'd been trying to move on from that life
For a while.
Right.
Since
He'd been
since
ready
he
to
came
hang
back
it
from
up.
the ice.
Right. Fighting the Great
So
War.
he was making an effort, and I guess Natalie just couldn't do it because she didn't have family.
Right.
She found out the name of her father in this movie. It's just his first name, Ivan, which I hear in Russia is quite fucking common.
Oh, is that the first time she hears it?
Yeah.
She's like,
That
he
was
knew.
one of the reasons that she really had more faith in that he was telling the truth, because she's like, I didn't know his name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I missed that. All right, cool.
He was like, Clint, son of Edith.
Yeah,
Natasha, daughter of
And
Ivan.
then he knew that Clint had absolute horrible relationship with his dad, so his true parent was his mother.
This guy. All right, cool. So yeah, so we get to the point of the how everybody's doing, and then Splinter shows up. Master Splinter crawls over a control in Scott Lang's van, which
MVP of the fucking movie is
Yeah.
the rat.
yeah, thank you, Rat. Now here's my question: how did that shit end up in that storage facility from the van that was on the top of a roof before the apocalypse happened? So at some point, did Luis decide that he was going to leave? Did the business close down? And he was just like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. Did Luis get snapped too?
Well,
And
let's
We'll
think.
find out in the next Ant-Man movie.
Well,
I
let's
haven't seen
let's think about post snap here for a second.
okay,
Half the world has just been deleted. What typically happens when a catastrophe happens?
it. Looting.
Looting, riots,
Right.
of a scale that would be unimaginable.
Right.
Because now your police force is half gone too, and anyone that works for the police force doesn't care about being on the police,
Right.
Because they now know that half their family is gone.
right, exactly.
So now there's the streets are dangerous, no matter where you go. So going back to get a van off a rooftop might not be super high priority.
Or it could have just been whoever owned the fucking building is like, please get this van off my fucking roof.
And do we know if he even got survived the snap?
Well,
He could have been snapped
Cassie,
away too.
it could have been Cassie. It's she was a kid at the time.
To be
that
fair,
it
I
happened,
think
so.
what happened to Cassie is even sadder for Scott. Because he missed 5 years of his daughter's life.
Yeah, and he already missed so much from prison, and he doesn't get to have that time back again.
So since Ant-Man 1, he's maybe had like a year and a half with her.
Yeah.
Because he went in for eight
Yeah,
to 10 years.
that was the first time I cried in the movie. That was the first time
when
I
he was
cried.
searching for her name on that
Oh
wall.
yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the amount of research I do, I found out that they had cast an older Cassie Lang, and so I figured at some point he was going to reunite with her. So I knew when he was searching the wall, they weren't going to find her name. And then he kept going through the D's. I don't know if that was specific to his ex-wife and the husband. I don't know what their last name is or what the.
Scott or was it who was the husband?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember the actress.
Josh Hamm or something like that.
No,
or
it wasn't John Hamm.
But to be fair, I feel like they did a really good job with that relationship because those guys they didn't hate each other like you most see like
Right.
dads and like
Yeah.
the new stepdad. Like
Yeah.
I mean the movie Dads or Daddy's.
They
Home,
were
whichever
friends
one
in
it
Ant-Man and the
is.
Wasp.
They were friends. It was like they're like, hey buddy, good to see you.
Right.
That's great. And I was like, wow, that's a good move.
Reminded me of Vice Principals. I don't know if y'all have either seen Vice
I haven't seen
Principals.
that one
Okay. Yeah, Danny McBride has an ex-husband, or has a not an ex-husband, an ex-wife who has a new husband or a new boyfriend, and he just treats him so nice.
Yeah, but I guess there was like a cleanup response that happened, and all the property they found registered to a certain person got
It did have
put
his
into
last
one
name on it.
It did. Yeah, it did.
one,
Because
one
of the business
storage
and everything.
facility.
So.
I mean
family.
that's
Run by Ken Jeong from Community.
Yeah.
That's actually the fourth, and then Yvette Nicole
Oh,
Brown
okay.
is the fifth.
Yep.
he was actually, I can't remember what comic book it was, but the book that he was reading is an Easter egg.
That's right. That's right.
It's linked into something.
He was reading. There was a character who was named that had a name that was similar to someone else in the in the movie, or had a story called Endgame. That's right. He was reading a collection of short stories, and one of them was called Endgame.
But yeah, that rat really saved the day.
Saved the day. Scott finds his daughter. He ends up at the Avengers facility.
His taco gets blown away.
Well, we'll get to the taco.
Oh man,
we'll get to the taco. I wanted to touch on the scene of Nat talking to all of the holograms in the room, because that's right before Cap comes in, and then they get the message from Ant-Man. But she is trying to find Hawkeye and figure out what he's up to, and he's been taking out bad guys. He's got nothing left. He's just like, okay, it's time to do what I'm good at. I don't have the other thing I was good at, which was being a family man. So it's time to kill people that deserve to be killed. And
let's go back to what I was doing
honestly,
before.
it's a tale as old as time. You lose your family, you're just going to rampage and kill killers.
Right.
Punisher happened.
John Wick.
Dogs
he
are
lost his
family,
wife
too.
and his
Dogs are
puppy.
family too. Yeah.
No, it's
Then he killed Theon Greyjoy.
Yeah, he did kill Theon Greyjoy.
Alfie Allen.
Yes, he
that's
did.
right.
But it's the line that War Machine says. He's like, I'm not even sure if I want to find him. Is just
After all this
it's-
shit,
yeah,
finding
It's like, why would we want for somebody to stop doing
right,
this?
and she loves him so much. Like Black Widow really does, cares for him and wants
like
him
the
home.
deepest friendship
Right.
kind of bond, like super platonic. Like you never really get the vibe that they would ever be into each other.
I don't know about that. I have more to say on that later when we get to that scene.
Also, I did like the possible hint towards Namor. Or Namor.
With
with
earthquakes.
underwater earthquakes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
I feel like if anybody was going to be a villain,
It's an earthquake.
actually, I did hear that. I did hear that they
nothing.
might cast. No, it was Namor
Rock?
or. Actually, I did hear rumor that Steven
Aquaman
Yeun might be a
versus
good.
Namor.
Steven Yeun might be a good Namor.
You know what?
yeah,
Honestly,
if he
having
buffed up a little bit
they
and-
need
and-
another Asian character, and they were talking about bringing
Quan-Chi.
Quan Chi. Is that who it
No,
is?
Quan Chi is from a shitty Bruce Campbell movie.
Quan Chi.
Well, no, there's a character who's named like Shang-Chi or something, and
Yeah.
it just looks like a basic ninja, but it's the new Asian Black Panther is what they're trying to do, is have the Asian American or
Well, to be fair, Crazy Rich Asians did do pretty well at the box office. And now the people who did that are also Crazy Rich Asians.
All right,
Yes,
so
yes,
but
they
yeah,
are.
I liked that point that Rhodey was like, you know what, I don't even think I even want to find him. And you could take that a couple different ways. Like, we don't want him to. He's all for him doing this,
Right.
and like he sees his point of view, and like, why stop a good thing?
right.
Or if,
I didn't even think about that.
how are you approaching it?
I
That's how I immediately when he said it, I'm like, he's all for this. Like,
No, because
That's
he's
right, because those guys, when they reverse his snap, those guys aren't coming back.
I don't. Okay.
Those
Okay.
guys are
I
permanently
totally
dead.
saw it as this guy is incredibly violent. I'm scared of what would happen if I tried to
If we
stop
tried to
him
go
or
after
tried to bring him in or something. You
or
know.
what we would have to do to him to get him to
Exactly.
the point where we could
Exactly.
immobilize him.
So that got me, and then of course the Captain Marvel bit where she's like, I'm going to be gone for a while, and kind of just explains where she's. Not every planet had an Avengers, and so she's off dealing with other stuff. And I feel that was a little writery. I feel that was
a writer thing, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it was that one was at least a pretty good.
I like how they handled
it was a
Captain
good-
Marvel.
it
They
was
could tell that she was way too OP based on what they wanted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I feel like the Russos and McFeely and the writers, they handled her perfectly for this.
It was a-
particular
Depowered the
instance.
Hulk in the same way.
It was a good angle to get rid of her because it still brought meaning to the story.
Right.
It still brought gravity to the fact, like, oh yeah, don't forget this wasn't just Earth. This was the entire.
I like that angle.
known
Okay.
universe.
Okay.
So
Ooh,
in that
and that
case, you're
entire
kinda like,
universe
go.
thing does come back later, which we can talk about when the big battle
Yes,
happens. Because
yes,
honestly, I feel like seeing everybody who showed up to the big battle probably made me one of the most emotional. Like,
He
the most
pointed out
emotional
some
moments.
people
Even
that I
Howard the
didn't-
Duck was
yeah,
in there,
The
and
The
Ravagers were in
there.
it.
Oh yeah,
You
their
see
little
their-
ship in their background.
You see their world, or the Whore planet.
Yeah, you see the Horde planet in the background.
Yeah,
Like
they
that's
come
where
in.
that's where Wong is coming from when he brings the people in. You can see like the neon signs and the snowy bits of the planet in the background.
And you see them coming out with their red trench coats and some of their ships in the background.
Yep.
And we saw which I didn't see on the first guard was actually as Guardians
gotta
in
watch this
full
again.
warrior mode.
Yeah. Well, let's cut to a clip.
And we're back.
And we're back. But yeah, so no, that battle scene. I'm glad we got a chance
that was
to
the
rewatch
quantum
that.
realm in real life.
That's right. We did that. That's exactly what we did when we were filming our promo. We're like, we're going to cut to a clip right now, and then would just laugh hysterically, not knowing what it is. Like, that was a great clip. That was a classic moment from that one episode we have posted.
To be fair, I feel like we're putting our strong stuff out.
We do. I got the stuff that matters. Like, I'm getting this one out in a lot of time, and we have another review for an album that we did that's coming out for Periphery. Stay tuned for that, Stuniverse. But yeah, moving along to let's see,
Into the tacos.
So we get to the point where everybody's back together and
we start experiencing the Credible Hulk.
The Credible Hulk. Okay. Before you get to that, I just want to say, because Ant-Man shows up at the Avengers facility, and he is the one to come up with the we met at the airport.
I got really big.
Yeah. There's so many innuendos in this movie, so many lines like that. Where it's like, I'm going inside you now. Is that Axe body spray? I had a can in my desk.
A can in my desk in case of emergency.
But no, like, Ant-Man, I find it a little plotty also that Ant-Man was the one to just kind of spout out the whole plan and just like, we can use time travel to fix this. It was
kind of cool though, because we knew it was coming for a little while. We just didn't know why it was coming because of the quantum realm stuff, and then his mother or his wife being found in the quantum realm in one of the Ant-Man movies and hadn't aged a day. That was kind of like a precursor to like, oh, time has no bounds in the quantum realm.
Right.
Why are we discussing this? Why is this a thing still? And
right.
And to be fair, I'm glad it was Scott, because throughout even since Civil War, Scott has been considered a joke by the majority of the Avengers and the world.
Because he's got the powers of Ant-Man, but not the smarts of Hank Pym for the original. So it's like, what are you doing here? If your suit breaks, you're fucked. Like, you've got nothing, man.
And it's kind of great that I feel like it came from him, because I feel like because of that, you could feel like, oh, he actually contributed something. He came up with a plan.
It really would have been difficult for him to do so otherwise, because if we were talking about canonical characters in this situation, you've got Bruce Banner that has, one field that he's an expert in. Tony Stark is an expert in like mechanical and engineering.
What is Bruce Banner's field? I thought his field was physics.
Gamma. No, he's a gamma. They name it in the Incredible Hulk in the movie, but he's got PhDs in what is it? Chemistry.
But you have the fields, and then you have then you would have Hank Pym. So you like most of the time in like original Avengers, it was always like Stark and Pym.
Yeah,
or
Reed
Richards was the biggest one.
Yeah.
But they had to kind of combine Reed Richards' brains and divide it between a couple characters because that character wasn't there.
Yeah, which I'm kind of glad that they chose Scott Lang over Hank Pym.
We could not have withstood another fucking know-it-all brain person, even though I love Michael Douglas as the Hank Pym, and you could tell that's exactly who he was in the earlier days.
Like, that may have just hauled off and hit his wife at one point if she backtalked him.
I will slap you into the quantum realm, bitch.
Well, to be fair, I think he dies after he does hit her, because they're like, wow, can't believe you did that, and then he dies.
Yeah, they kill him off. So yeah, he comes up with the idea for that, and then they go. What is it? Is it before? At what point do they decide they need to go to Thor? That's after they go to Stark for help first, right?
Yeah, they go to Stark, and then they mention, he's like, you guys are fucking crazy. If you guys bring the shit in my house, don't even count on dinner.
Right.
And then later he's like, well,
he's like, if we don't talk shop, y'all can stay for lunch, and it's so sweet seeing him, like the intro of him having his daughter in the campsite. I love you 3000. The rescue helmet, her coming out in the rescue helmet, and that was just that's something
I did not expect like the whole family thing to be going on. I
thought maybe a dog.
Yeah.
One of the things
that was good though. I like that.
That got me the most was Pepper's involvement and her essentialness to Tony's character, and like letting him move on and be able to
do it.
Like, as a wife, going and be like, I know you can't. Like, you have the ability.
You can't
to
let
fix
this go,
because she changed a lot from the first three.
Because she left him after he wouldn't let it go, and in Civil War they're separated.
They both grew, and that was a nice way to portray that. Like, Tony's settled down and become a family man, and Pepper's also grown to understand and acknowledge the fact that this insatiable intellect needs to have purpose. If you don't have purpose, then he will be miserable.
Your mom never buys anything I wear anyways, or anything I get her anyways. That's such a good line.
Are we getting ready to talk about New Asgard?
Yeah. So okay.
That's probably my favorite. One of my favorite parts of the film.
It's going to be the most cosplayed Halloween costume.
Do they? Well, they get Hulk. They go and get Hulk first. So you want to touch on Credible Hulk?
Let's talk on Hulk. The Credible Hulk.
They just meet in a diner, and all
Professor
of a sudden,
Hulk.
you see in Infinity War, he has all these problems. He's having a hard time, getting it hard, and so basically, he's figured out how to have that permanent.
Work hard.
Yeah, he's had that what's that late night commercial that they used to have? Insight. He got insight. He spent time in a gamma chamber, and I like the fact that I don't, and I do, because I know what they're doing with the Hulk is trying to make a movie within movies that because they can't do because of the Paramount deal, they can't make their own Hulk movie. But I don't like the fact that it was just kind of glossed over.
I'm glad that they didn't make a Hulk standalone because that character lacks a lot of movie style depth that you could go into, because it's like he gets angry and he loses control,
right?
Or he doesn't.
Right, but
they tried a couple times.
There's something off-putting about Professor Hulk to me, and it's almost like he's channeling Bruce Willis. He's a little bit more cocky and confident. There's a
well, he doesn't have to
he's not angry anymore.
Well, he's not. I think the more you reflect on it, it's neat because you found a way that Hulk can be let out, so to speak. Like his physicality can be let out. But it's still got the mental cap of Banner in there, and it's satisfying both, because if you squash one or the other, you turn into this miserable,
very
emotional
angry
ball.
or very anxious.
I would have thought it'd been better if, since he says that him and Hulk became one.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see, because throughout the movie he's sort of passive aggressive. He doesn't really his mood doesn't change, and I feel like if he was to become one with the Hulk, I feel like he would embrace his angry side just a little bit more, or be more aggressive in certain situations or conversations.
Well, I think that's where the extra confidence comes through, but
he's like, please take your hand off of me when he's talking to Thor.
But Banner still reels it back a little bit, so it's the confidence of and forward outgoingness of Hulk is still out there, but he's still reeling it in. So
it was an interesting choice, and I appreciate the direction what they went. It was definitely one of the more interesting time jump elements that they had.
Hulk Deb.
Yeah. Deb is he came
Listen
off
to your
as
mother.
such an asshole at certain points, and just you guys want some of these eggs? They're great eggs, man. And I definitely see a little bit of Mr. Fix-It in there, a little bit of that mobster mentality. There was so it almost felt like Die Hard. I keep going back to Bruce Willis, but there was such a way in Mark Ruffalo's performance. So yeah, and we were talking about it with them separating when the Ancient One, knocks him out of his body. I think that they may end up going in a direction where they separate Hulk and Banner completely into two entities that then have to face each other in some way.
Yeah. And the point I brought up, and I was like, if they hadn't have already used a very similar Planet Hulk storyline in Thor Ragnarok, which I loved.
I love that.
I would have based off piggybacking off his idea, what if they did that? What if Doctor Strange separated them and then put Hulk into another dimension, and he basically became Planet Hulk, or
Hulk
World
again.
Breaker, King Hulk, the one who goes around cracking planets out of pure rage, because that's all he is at that point. But anyway, that was speculation. So maybe we'll get some more. I feel like we'll see more Hulk come out, because I feel Hulk has amazing regenerative properties. That's one of his things. That's why he's so scary. Is because he can take missiles to the face, and his arms bandaged. I was kind of hoping about this, after
that Infinity Gauntlet really did a fucking doozy on it.
That's what I'm saying. It's I was kind of hoping
his gamma radiation, when it's in full effect, even if you manage to put a ding in Hulk, he just gets mad again, and the gamma radiation makes him heal. According, for every comic book or whatever that we've ever kind of take a look at.
So I understood him getting maimed, but I think my biggest I'm getting a little ahead.
Got to dumb him down a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to dial back that power scale.
Right,
I know.
exactly.
Just like all the beard did.
He should have had a re-showdown with Thanos, I think. At least gotten one swing in when
One
Captain
good
Marvel
real punch
when
or
everybody
something
was
like
coming
that.
at him at that one last bit.
Just a fucking
Or to pick him up and literally throw him.
Yeah,
into something
exactly. And then get hit again or something. I don't know.
All right, so where were we? We were talking about. Now we're going to Thor.
Well, we're going to Tornsberg. Tonsberg, which come to find out is actually the city in Captain America where the Space Stone is being kept. When Red Skull goes and gets it, that's the same place. So,
and aren't they saying also that that's the same spot that
Odin disappeared?
Decided to kind of
Ooh, do you think maybe Odin left it there?
Yeah.
Under protection?
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole, because they built it new. It was, I don't think it was exactly the same like church that they had during it, because there was a town already established where it was. So it may be the same town, and the Asgardians just came and moved in and started wearing regular people clothes.
Thor's just walking around, sees a picture, like a Polaroid of his dad with like just some random guy.
It's like, here's my second family here. But I kind of, I was kind of wanting New Asgard to have like a little bit of old architecture and then like a couple of new buildings that they kind of made.
You don't think that building looked like
there
it?
Was I think there was one in like the center town that had like some kind of a golden
it looked like they were in the process of building it. You know?
But I mean, you've been there 5 years. What else y'all fucking doing?
Mourning.
Yeah,
as
mourning,
they lost their planet,
repopulating,
lost 90% of their population, and then lost half of that.
This is one of the reasons that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor is probably my number one. I love Captain America.
He is the saddest boy.
but Thor went through so much character like tear down, rebuild, tear down, rebuild.
He's the antagonist of Infinity War. Like he's the Thanos' movie, he's the protagonist, and Thor is the antagonist of that. And this is the result of what happens when like he did win. He did like nobody else killed Thanos. Did you kill Thanos? Like don't say that
Stormbreaker.
name.
Well, who swung Stormbreaker?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, man. Oh, man. It was good to see Korg.
Korg, Noob Master playing Fortnite against...
Thor, Noob Master's back.
It's like, if you do not get off this game right now, I will fly over there, come down to your house, rip off your arms, and shove them up your butt.
Thanks, Thor.
You let me know if he bothers you again. We're all good here. We're fine. I'm glad we got to see Korg, Meek, Valkyrie, all of them.
Man, and then Thor's body reveal. I was like, as soon as I was like, this is the greatest thing. Like, you look like melted ice cream.
You look like melted ice cream.
I have that written down somewhere in here.
In one of the one-liners.
Yeah, I have a couple of one-liners. One of which I didn't touch on was when Cap is like, "You get a life," and Nat goes, "You first."
Oh
yeah. So anyway, I just noticed that.
I think there were some items.
Time
on
heist, by the way.
Oh yeah, I think there were some items on Nat's table that were like calling back a hearkening to like she had ballerina shoes on the table or something like that.
Well, they are getting a prequel movie. We are getting a Black Widow. Maybe we'll see what happens in Budapest at some point.
Because they reference
They do. Again,
that's
the third time they've mentioned Budapest.
We're a long way from Budapest.
Right.
But yeah, so
before
Dad
we go
bod,
any further,
Dad bod Thor.
Since we're right here, you guys think Captain America and Natasha banged one out? Because they have before, and one of the storylines, they do have a kid together.
Yeah, totes.
I feel like they would have.
I feel like they would have stress banged.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. In the middle of Winter Soldier, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be honest, didn't they kiss in like one of the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, well, they kissed to like fake like kiss me, like we're in a crowd and you got just.
I don't know, dude. They were.
Yeah.
I feel like Joss Whedon was totally. No, it wasn't Joss Whedon. It was the Russo brothers.
The Russo brothers did that. Joss Whedon was the one who did Hulk and Natasha.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I did not like about the Avengers series, because like the Russo brothers were definitely
seems like a hoe. Just
I was
a little bit.
I was about to say, except for the fact that when like she saw that Banner was perma hulked, and she was like, "Oh, so you got it together." Huh? And have you seen the GIF on Reddit?
Yeah.
You know the one. You don't need to put that on the show. It's a lot of green.
It's Hulk. He looks
got a
at
green
her.
screen right
She
here.
looks at him, and then it's just. And I don't know how they amplify it, but the penis going in looks like the size of 4 of these microphones together.
Yeah. it's like somebody's calf.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. So yeah.
I mean, I'd watch it.
Definitely. Yeah, I would too.
And we're back.
So we get Dad bod Thor, and you know
I have the body of a god,
Yeah,
and it makes me happy. To be fair, I like Chunky Thor.
I liked him too.
Me too.
The dude Thor.
Yeah, one side
Thor
Lebowski. Yeah, Thor Bowski.
Thor Bowski.
Yeah, so they get him, Hulk says Thanos' name. He's like, don't say that name. And so the next scene is like, we got beer on the ship. And I hate that that's the thing that convinces him.
Like, he didn't need much convincing at this point.
Right,
it was just like they needed something.
I could have, like, the pep talk I thought from Hulk should have been enough. And I loved having Hulk there, like Hulk and Rocket be the people that go and get him, because he both, in two different movies, he had a connection with each one of them.
It's the perfect two characters.
Yeah, and they continue the connection with him going back to
oh man, and Hulk was like, you know who got me through that? He's like,
you.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, that just gave me goosebumps just then.
Right.
Also, I just realized Iron Man called Thor different characters from movies in every single.
They called
time.
him Ratchet he
called him Point Break. Swayze. He called him Thorbowski. This is kind of cool. I wonder if there's any other ones I didn't catch.
I'm sure there is. Yeah, that was. I loved that that scene.
So then after that nice little scene, Kate takes us to Tokyo.
No password on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's my favorite.
on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So yeah, we go to Tokyo, and it's Nat looking for Clint, and she finds him, and he's just, there's this one shot, and I went back and saw it. I didn't notice how cool this shot was the first time, but it's a single take of him just going down this building and just taking people out, and then
I love those single take ones.
And then it ends up with him fighting the dude who plays Dogen in Lost. I don't know if y'all watched Lost, but he's in season 6, and I just remember him as the temple guy that gets killed in the end of the season.
Wow, spoiler for a 15-year-old show.
Yeah, get over it. 2004. Good quick mind there on that one, and adding that together, because I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, got me on that.
Yeah. So anyway, he ends up killing that dude and wiping the blood.
Well, only one half of the sword's blood, by the way. I don't know if you caught that.
What do you mean?
He did the sword through the arm thing, but he only caught there was
half
blood.
of it.
There was blood on
Where
both
the
sides
blade
of the
split.
blade.
Oh.
You didn't do a slash kill. You did a fucking stab kill. So it's
he should have completed it and then wiped it.
Or you could have done the little pant wipe. Would have been.
What if the camera cut over and he had already done? He was doing like a butter knife, and he had already flipped over one
trying to get
side,
the peanut butter off,
and
of
so
the
he had
butter
already
knife
flipped
on
off
the
the
edge of
other
the sink.
side.
Was that like a
it was that
Mr.
one
Clean wipe?
continuous shot. It was just a little thing that I'm like, what's the point of wiping the one side?
Yeah, I noticed that in my second watch. I was like, well, that wasn't as cool now.
And then it honestly doesn't take much convincing at all to get Clint to come back.
He's
and,
like, "There's hope."
He's like, don't give me that.
Yeah,
Don't give me that hope.
Yeah, exactly. And so he comes back, and what do we have
And
next?
he's got his expert level fuck my shit up haircut.
That's
With
right.
the bad fade.
That's right. And
I call him paintbrush. Because when he's putting on the suit, he kind of looks like a paintbrush.
A couple days after the movie came out, there was a subreddit called "Just Fuck My Shit Up."
the haircut subreddit.
The haircut
Yeah.
subreddit, and he was on there. He's like their new martyr.
You haven't seen Daniel's new haircut yet.
No.
It's straight. It's Ronin.
Glorious.
Sorry, Daniel. You're probably never gonna watch this, but yeah,
in case you do,
your shit's all fucked
We
up,
can all
bro.
tell with the hat on.
You gotta start going to Great Clips, man. Stop going to those. Stop going to those ghetto barbershops, bro. All right, so then we get to we didn't touch on little tiny tacos when the tacos
when they get blasted out by the jet when they come back, and
that's-
then Hulk's got the little tiny. Oh my god!
such good mimery, and then them talking about going back in time, and Rhodey's like. It's just the way he
Wait,
mimes
did you-
strangling baby
I swear
Thanos.
I heard sound effects for the wire.
No, he's doing that with his mouth. Like he's straight up like.
The beeps, the creeps, and the sweeps. That's not always lost.
Yeah. So then they get to planning out the how they're going to end up going and getting all the stones. You get this really neat montage, which, if you notice, when Stark shows up, this is something I wanted to point out. I don't know if any of y'all had seen set photos of any of the stuff previous to the movie coming out. So Tony decides he's going to help. He figures out how to make this work, which they don't go into a lot of how the time travel scientifically works. They just go into the rules of how you can and can't change things, which we could take a whole entire podcast just talking about the rules of time travel in this movie.
Because they spent a lot of time dictating the rules.
Right, and even then it's
straight up doing the same thing that we all did afterwards. They're like, are we talking Terminator time travel?
Right.
Back to the Future time travel?
So you mean to tell me that Back to the Future is bullshit? Great Ant-Man line.
See, that was another thing. Going back to the taco things, is right there. Ant-Man was just trying to have his fucking lunch, and he gets insulted twice.
Yeah, we have an idiot out of the
landing.
front. Yes.
Watch the front door. We've got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's. Yeah, and he's like, "You want to go to space? Oh, you want to go to space?"
I loved that he was the only character that was like fascinated by the plot points of Thor 2.
Oh yeah. I didn't even notice that.
He was like.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's just excited to be there, and he just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like they're talking about every one of us has been interacted with the Soul or an Infinity Stone. He's like, I haven't. That's so good. And yeah, so they go through and they start talking about it, and Thor's asleep, and then he starts lamenting on Jane, and
Yes, we were a thing once.
Well, we're not.
You know, and
He got broken up with twice in the same movie. It's Lady Sif and Natalie Portman both stopped showing up.
Right, they just got blocked, just straight.
And one thing you brought up is we don't know where Lady Sif has been.
We don't at all. She was last time we see her was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think we see a recast with Beta Ray Bill.
As Lady Sif. Just Beta Ray Bill as Lady Sif. Well, we don't have a trans character. We kind of have our Ellen type lesbian character. If we're going to count Captain Marvel as that kind of analog.
Oh yeah,
character.
with that haircut, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so we need a
Bring them
trans type
together.
character.
She was giving Rhodey some eyes.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I think I
was.
seem to remember some kind of flirtation between the two of those.
Yeah, pilots.
Oh.
It was either a flirtatious respect.
When
Because
did they see each other?
it was hologram. Like when they were talking to Black Widow.
Oh, they made eyes.
I think that
right?
was the. I
She's
think that
like,
was the. Are you going to
"Be
deal
careful
with
out there."
Natasha? No, she was like, good luck. I thought that was like, you're dealing with Nat right now. You have to have that conversation about Clint with Nat. I think that's what that good luck was, and that kind of.
Well, I mean, I don't think Captain Marvel gives a fuck about Clint. I don't think she.
Well,
she hadn't met
kind
him.
of with just knowing because you see how worked up Black Widow is, and every one of them is like, chill out. We've got this handled. There's not a big threat anymore. We're not waiting for something to happen. None of them are at that point right now, except for Nat. And she's the one just like, okay, you let me know as soon as you find out. Do we have visuals on that earthquake? Like, what's going on with it? And and Captain Marvel's like, I'm not going to be back for a while, okay? I'm going to be taking care of things. And then I'm sure that they were probably talking about Nat behind her back and probably like, hey, she's kind of going off the deep end a little bit. So maybe
They probably already knew that was going to happen.
Rhodey's going to be the one to talk to her out of any of them. So that's what that look meant to me, at least, or at least that's how I took it.
So see, where were we? We just past Thor, past Ant-Man.
We passed, yeah. So we get into them planning out the time heist, pretty much. Okay. Oh yes, this is what I was going to get to. So when Hulk or when Tony shows up and is speeding down and ends up giving Cap back his shield.
We forgot about young Ant-Man and old
Oh
Ant-Man.
yes, I don't know who pissed my
somebody
pants.
pissed my pants. Maybe it was just me.
It was baby me, old me, or
Maybe it was just me.
me.
That was great. I really enjoyed that, and Hulk's attitude about like, what, this is all either all of this is real or none of it's real. Like I'd have no idea what I'm doing right now. He's like, okay, we're good. He's like, we're great. It's one of the lines I wrote down was like when he's a baby Hulk or when he's a baby Ant-Man, he's like, get him back here now. It's like, what? He'll grow. Like Hulk is just like, we got him back. He's not old. He'll grow. We'll just leave him here.
And then he comes back as an even smaller.
So yeah, we get into the planning. But when Tony is taking out the shield, he has a little orange box with him, like a pelican case. You can kind of see a corner of it of him carrying it in. Well, in set photos, there was an orange pelican case that was the exact same case that had binary augmented retro framing written on it, which is the BARF technology he uses from Captain America Civil War when he goes to see his dad and can like go back into the brain and see everything. And at one point, I think that they were going to be using that as a way to figure out where the stones are at what time and use to go back into their minds and
calculate exactly where they needed to put
exactly.
the coordinates
And I think that they just, because of time or because of changing in the plot, somehow they just cut that out. But you can still see him carrying the case, and there's a set photo. Someone just took a photo of that case, and it's written on there as binary augmented retro framing. And yeah, they didn't bring it back up. Like, it's interesting that they brought that technology up at the beginning of Civil War, and you don't really see it used for anything else.
True, but I mean, at the same time, I feel like, I mean, there's a couple of characters around that, like, they know. I mean, they even say it's like, well, I mean, we know when there was, at least
three
two,
stones,
or at least two, and they're like, oh wait, no, the Sanctum. They're talking about Doctor Strange. They're like, where does he live? He's like, New York.
Right.
They're like, so you're trying to tell me that at one point there was 3 Infinity Stones in New York?
Yeah, they're kind of admitting that that's kind of a bad fault. Like
Yeah.
a little bit of a like, okay, why would you have this many when the other 2 are like way off, or 3? Is it 6 or 5?
There's 6.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the other ones are way off on other planets and stuff. I just thought that was strange. But I have to pee. Y'all keep talking.
Okay. So let's see. We're talking about that. What happened next in the movie? I've seen it 3 times. I just can't remember. Oh, you got the plot going. That's how you've been keeping up, you sneaky bitch.
I told you.
All right, let's see here. Oh, okay, hold on. Here we go.
Yeah, we gotta scroll up a little bit.
5 years later, Quantum Realm, Tokyo, Clint, Anders, Rogers, traveling to New York City. Okay. Oh, wait, where's the other jewels?
I only have one. It came with one. You have to buy other toys that were discontinued to get them. And so I can't even get the toys to have that. I'm just going to go to Hobby Lobby and buy them.
Wow.
He still has a long way to go. But anyway, so, fuck, what came next? I'm sitting here looking. So they go to New York. Oh, man, the fucking Thor scene. The Thor scene, or not the Thor scene,
yeah.
when they all get there and it's the Hulk. And they're watching the Hulk beat the shit out of stuff. And they're like, there you go, man. You got to go out there. He's like, okay.
He picks the motorcycle up and tosses the motorcycle off to the side.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic. And then there was the...
talking about when he's pretending to get angry.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I love the Ancient One thing, where
Yeah,
even
that
though
was
they
a
just
great
they
conversation.
just talked about time travel, even though we just heard it, they did that to reaffirm the way it actually works to make more.
Yeah, that was more.
Ground, but
that
it
was
felt
more
natural.
Of a, that was more of a service to us, but it also helps demonstrate,
How things would work.
I thought it was a little easy to the plot that the Ancient One had the Eye of Agamotto with her and was at the Sanctum Sanctorum instead of Carmartage, because, maybe because the battle was happening, she went and grabbed the Eye of Agamotto. But at the time that
Well, I mean,
Dr.
she already knew it
Strange,
was going to happen.
but at the time Doctor Strange had found it, it hadn't been used, and nobody had known how to use it or anything, and she wasn't even using it. We don't see the stones get used but once outside of the Infinity Gauntlet. The only time we see a stone get used in the movie, well, actually twice.
Well, it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Loki,
So-
well, no, I mean in Endgame. Loki uses
okay.
the Space Stone to escape in 2012, and then the
Gem
Mind
for
Stone.
Ultron, the Power Gem by Ronan, the
He's talking about
Ether.
in the
No,
Endgame movie.
in Endgame
Endgame,
itself.
okay.
Okay, so
Stones are
in
actually being
Infinity
used.
War, you see Thanos use the individual stones in each way. So you see Thanos use the Time Stone, you see him use the Soul Stone, or you see a representation, you see the Soul World. And but you don't see a lot of that in Endgame. You see them using all the stones at once, but they use the Mind Stone on Captain America, and then the Space Stone gets used when Loki escapes with it, and that's it.
So I have a quick theory I want to bring up that I literally just thought about. What if the Infinity Gauntlet is basically just a computer? Think about it. Soul Stone, it's the memory. The Power Stone, the power. The graphics card is the reality.
Would the Time Stone be the CMOS battery? This is,
I don't know, man. Look, I thought about this 15
Maybe the
seconds
RAM,
ago.
I don't know.
I thought of 3 things. You guys worry about the other 3.
okay.
But it made sense that the Sorcerer Supreme was A, in New York, and B, had the eye, because
She can see anything except past her death.
Well, we're talking about an extraterrestrial threat. There's only a couple reasons to come to Earth.
Right.
Infinity Stones is one of them. So the safest place
Are you trying to tell me that our wonderful cultures are not bringing the aliens here?
No.
Are you trying to tell us? Are you trying to tell me alien abductions are bullshit?
But it would have made sense that she had it because it would be the safest place is on her person to maybe have to use it if she needed to.
Right. And so yeah, they had a good opportunity to. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, but it was perfect. I love how he had lost the argument. It was not going to happen, and then in his fleeting throw of why would he give it to? Well, why would Strange give it to Thanos?
Right.
And she was like, "Shit."
Okay, so I guess I got to do this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if my boy did it, I guess I gotta ride.
Right, and that's okay. I'll accept that. I'll accept that. With the ancient one, her explanation of time travel, like, because you're never shown which one of them is really right about what happens. We're kind of shown that both of them are right about what happens to the timeline. That if you take a stone out of the timeline, that it makes a branch reality, but if you return it, it sticks to the original timeline that they are in right now. As I think is
basically
they weren't arguing with each other, but
even though in her, I liked. Of course, she was one of my favorite characters from Doctor Strange because she just made so much sense. Like the wise,
right,
being able to just put things into words. But the fact that the Avengers were so wildly irresponsible with time travel, as soon as they figured out they could do time travel, they're
absolutely.
Like, so let's fuck all of these timelines.
Hijinks, like they're just sneaking around in the background.
They're like, let's get Thor's hammer.
Right.
Let's take that from that future timeline. So if we fuck up, like oh my god, there's so many more timelines that are getting jacked.
Yeah.
I think my favorite scene was the stuff from happening in New York.
Yeah.
Was the plot, the Hulk takes the stairs. I hate stairs.
Hulk hates stairs.
Why did he even take the stairs? Why didn't he just jump off the side of the building?
That's what I thought of that too. Like he's
I mean, it worked for the plot device, of course. We get it now.
We didn't point out the fact I noticed in my notes that earlier when Hulk and everybody are discussing where the stones are, you see Hulk eating Hulka burning fudge,
the ice cream,
the ice cream on there, which is a giant
Ben
and Jerry's quart.
Is this Ben and Jerry's? But what if after the snap it was just Jerry's?
Actually, I want to go back and enhance on that and look and see if that is true. Just that's really good.
But honestly, I think the best part was just my favorite part was just seeing their past selves in the first Avengers, like the fight scene, that iconic turn.
Well, it's funny because Thor ends up showing up, or when Robert Redford's like, "Where are y'all going?" He's like, "We're going to lunch and then Asgard."
Yeah.
And you know that they're talking about shawarma. Like it's so great to see the immediate moments, and Tony Stark's like, "All right, let's stop standing around and posing up a storm. Like we're just because they're all standing there in the background." It's like I think I have that drink now, and then all of the Shield agents show up and they acknowledge the fact, Crossbones, and they're like, okay, they look. Ant-Man's like, they look like bad guys. Like, what were you thinking?
What were you guys thinking?
Right.
Did you see that one guy?
Which I mean, at this point, I feel like Ant-Man is the audience.
Yeah,
he represents the audience. He's like time travel. He's like, these guys are obviously fucking bad guys. Look at them.
All right, flick me.
So the whole downstairs theme, I liked how it was the downstairs. We could break it into the scenes that here. The downstairs heist was interesting because it caused a lot of stress because you're like, what are they doing? Like, how are they going to pull this off? And then it's like literally like, give me a heart attack.
Right.
I'll survive.
Right.
I'm going to enter you now.
Yeah, he's like, I'm inside you. He's like, pull the pin, do it. And of course, I loved when Thor is like, I want to try this, and he just taps on the hammer and like brings it back to life.
I did not think that was going to work.
And then everything goes to shit, and Loki escapes.
Like, those pants did not do your ass a favor. Yeah. I'll have you know that I think that is America's ass.
That is America's ass.
That's
and then the fucking Hail Hydra. I thought it was going to be a fight scene.
Exactly.
And
like
then
the
they
last
just
time.
did the most hated things that they did in recent comic book history.
Yeah, was making a reference to that.
And they made a reference, but they did it perfectly. It was so good because they're like, how could you argue with this? Captain America just came in here and said Hail Hydra and he'll take the case. Like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Here you go, buddy.
I think I read a theory.
That guy's on our side.
I read a theory online that scene and how he chose to deal with that situation is what made him worthy enough to finally pick up the hammer versus Age of Ultron. Like how he chose to.
There was a couple things that.
Yeah, well,
him
being done with the fight, the reasons he was fighting to end the war, and he wasn't fighting. Like it was just, I'll have to go back and look at the whole thing, but yeah, it's
he's fighting for good,
right?
Not just good of the blank,
right? Just
whether it be the United States before in the past, or Shield in the past, or just his allies.
I mean, there was another theory about
he didn't care who he hurt before in the fight. Like if it was Hydra, they're still humans.
Interesting.
I saw a couple floating around. I think the other one I heard was Tony's parents, how he was holding that in him, which is why he wasn't virtuous enough. But I think my favorite one is like he could move it all along. He just didn't do it at the party because he's a bro and he didn't want to ruin the moment.
I like all of those theories. Like he felt like he could do it and then he just didn't. I love that one.
Yeah. He's
but I agree with that. Like holding on to the burden of knowing the truth and not being completely upfront and honest, but at the same time, it's like Thor wasn't exactly a super transparent character at all times either.
Right.
So, but
we'll get to Cap wielding the hammer.
But man, how great was it to see Cap fight Cap?
Okay, yeah. So I love how they set that up
Cap
with.
got his ass choked out.
Not only does Loki.
what?
I can do this all day. Yeah, I know.
I know. Because at this point, he's 15 years older, just about.
Right, exactly. So he's just young and plucky Cap from 2012. And I love how they set it up because Loki ends up turning into Cap like he does in Thor the Dark World. He's like, I'm on my way down to coordinate search and rescue, and just it's.
And didn't
then
he do it in front of Cap?
Yeah, he did it in front. He did it in front of Cap, so that was set up perfectly. That when Loki escaped, that's another reason. Like they didn't just do that to try to set up a Disney Plus show or something.
Yeah, that was a smart plot. Little.
Right. That's just they
there.
put that in there to where now Loki's escaped, and then Cap sees this other Cap, and they're perfectly matched with each other, and they're both just as good. And
they throw the shields at each other like.
Yeah, they
right
just
off
clank
the
and
bat,
go,
But like he should have known if he would have been able to keep the shield, he would have been able to.
All right.
But
It's 9:36. We need to.
All right, let's put the pedal to the metal and just hit on the highlights here.
All right, I'm running out of things that I have written down. We're gonna get into the final battle here in a second.
Put the pedal to the metal, Commander.
Yeah, we got Cap fighting Cap, and then they go. Okay, so we're gonna cut over to they decide. We're gonna cut over to Thor and Asgard.
Yeah, that was a good.
That was a beautiful scene.
The Thor. I hate that it takes so long for him to really get to the point of being like, okay, I'm not gonna be a pussy. Like he doesn't want to go in and see Jane. I
felt
that.
I felt like he did hold on to it a little bit. Like he should have been able to finally like.
Well, he's been holding on to that. He's like, basically, he's been holding on to what he is supposed to be and how he can't reach that. And then.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay.
And I feel like that's honestly where a lot of his issues have come in since.
But the gravitas of what's going on, like, hey yo, we just time traveled.
And I mean, not to
Buck
mention
up,
that,
let's get it together here.
I mean,
Rocket
think
just
about
slaps him and it's like getting snap out of it.
Thor, since
snap out of it.
Was it Ragnarok? Lost his home, lost his dad.
Lost his mom, lost his entire
lost
people.
His mom.
He's the one who initiated Ragnarok.
Lost his world. Right after that, the ship gets attacked.
Loses his
Thanos,
brother.
Loses his brother.
Loses more people.
His best friend.
Half the population there
Heimdall.
gets. Well, yeah, they kill a bunch of people there.
They kill a bunch of Asgardians there, and then they get snapped.
Yeah.
We're down into the 20s here, like of an entire people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they
Rough
still rode up. They was rough riders. They was about to pop off. Like
Right.
you see them in the final battle, all armored up. They kept a lot of
all their
shit.
shit.
Absolutely.
Which is really weird because I didn't see nobody carrying a bag on that fucking spaceship.
I think that
They
it was
could've made
all magical like they do. Just like Thor is able to summon the lightning and then his costume changes, or Loki can do the magic thing
and
that
his
he
hair
does.
gets braided.
His beard gets braided. Yeah.
They probably have. They probably have some sort of cloaking or stuff like that. But, from what I hear, none of the footage from Jane Foster was actually Natalie Portman. It was all reused or body doubles.
Keira Knightley,
Yeah.
That's a deep cut.
I
from
see what you
Pirates
did
of the
there.
Caribbean.
No, it wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean. No, we're talking about Phantom Menace.
That's right.
Yeah, Keira Knightley was the other Amidala and Padme.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we see that. We see Thor reunite with his mother, and then gets Mjolnir, and it's awesome.
That was a cool. I thought about it. I'm like, but he's not gonna do it, is he?
No, he's gonna fuck up other. He's like, fuck other Thor. He's just.
What was the same thing with the Infinity Stone? He's like, well, it's be all right if we bring it right back here.
But
right now.
but at the same time,
he didn't care about that.
No.
Small plot hole. When they left, I didn't see him with Stormbreaker. They were waiting to have that dual weapon reveal until afterwards. He left Stormbreaker in the hallway where Rocket was, and he didn't take it with him.
Did he really?
He left it up. He leaned it up against the thing and walked to get to the wine.
Maybe he came back.
Interesting.
Like, oh, shit,
okay.
No, but they showed him.
He's
They
like-
showed him nano suiting up like right in front of his mom with Rocket and him right there, and they hit it and they left. All he had was Mjolnir, and it's like he kind of left that in the
Russo brothers. What the fuck?
But they did it so that you could have that reveal moment.
Yes.
Tring, tring, like.
Oh, and that
like,
was great. He was like, I'm still worthy.
Yeah,
Right? He said it
exactly.
right before he left. And I was like,
I like how he wanted to go down and see if they had to-go cups in the and it's like down in the cellar they have great wine and maybe they have a couple of to-go cups and we can use, and he asks for a Bloody Mary like it's this new drink. He's like, I'll have a Bloody Mary. He's just
Yeah. So that was I like that whole. It was more of like a Thor redemption kind of thing. That was enjoyable. But let's talk about who they sent and why they got sent. let's send 2 humans with no discernible superpowers
And
to go grab a Infinity Stone.
And you know what
when you could have
sucks?
sent Nebula with one, or
Oh, man.
or the War Machine could have gone.
You know, Clint said not it for that one too. And he still
no,
had to go.
Ant-Man said not it.
Oh, he said
It was Ant-Man that was like when they were talking about Vormir and Nebula was like, it's a place of death where no one. It's where my
Center
sister
of
was
the universe,
killed. And,
celestial bodies.
yeah, and he's just like, not it.
But like that was very odd. It's like, let's send 2 basically, like, as far as humans go, average Joes to go do this. We don't know what's on that planet. No one had been to that planet to see what was going on with it. It just so happened that there was no enemies there.
And they didn't know. Well, you got to think about what
no,
they knew about
Nebula
the planet.
had seen it before. Remember, she talks about it. How Gamora and her had found it.
About Vormir?
Yeah, and
Oh, that's right. Because
they talk about how.
So
she
why
found
did
it.
she not go? Or some? They should have taken.
She didn't know that there had to be a sacrifice.
Because
a
she,
trade.
no,
she
I'm
had to
just
know
saying-
where the
I'm
power
just saying
orb
overall,
was. She knew where Peter Quill found the power.
Oh,
orb.
that's great. Send War Machine with somebody.
He didn't know how to get into the door.
You've got 4 people, 2 without powers, 1 in a suit of armor with assload of weapons, and another person that's like an expert level machine assassin.
Right.
Let's split that power gap up a little bit and put some advantage tiered people with each other to go to each planet.
Right.
I feel like it came down to story-wise, but also I feel like
Absolutely, it was story-wise. I'm
Story-wise.
just saying, like, logically, like...
I don't think Nebula's any more powered than like Hawkeye.
I feel like the only
or-
reason they
well,
didn't
like their
send
gadgets and
Nebula
stuff.
was because Nebula knew Quill. She knew the story. She knew where to find it. She knew how he got in.
That
all
makes
these other things.
for her it made sense.
Because she knew
but
to
War Machine
go
could have
right
gone to
into, she knew to
Vormir.
go
Right.
exactly into his,
He knew had as much knowledge about Vormir as Clint did.
Yeah, no,
there
but
was
he's
no reason.
paralyzed. You can't get rid of him yet.
But it's just like logically speaking, it doesn't make sense to put your 2 power, like looking at the 2 of them, your 2 power players together and your 2 average humans.
But
with
to
no
be fair,
powers
they've been
together.
doing that since Avengers. Like, what the fuck are these 2 guys gonna do? They're just 2 assassins. You have a super soldier, a god, the Incredible Hulk, and fuck, who else was there? Oh, Iron Man.
Yeah.
And a fucking genius. And that was like the big thing. Is like, what are these 2 people gonna do in the Avengers movie? I feel like maybe that was a callback because there's a lot of callbacks.
Here's the
Right.
thing. I don't think that they're pointless characters because they serve a very good purpose in the scheme of the
the
movie.
humans,
The human element
Yeah.
to remind everybody that, like,
the average
this-
Joe, the family man who's
like,
fighting along with
where
this genius.
you've got all these superpowered things going on in alien technology and all this stuff that could kill somebody instantly. That's their life. They're living in it, and it's a very real danger that they're in at all times.
And some of that could be construed as like it's obvious that they're not making very healthy decisions. Like they're not. I don't think they're portrayed as ones who are like, this is a good idea for us to do. No, they're so hurt and so like fucked up from the things that Hawkeye has done a lot of things. Black Widow has read on her ledger.
Yeah.
They're not in a place of like, this is something that normal people wouldn't be a part of. Well, they're not. They've been through a whole lot more. So,
But I like the characters in that sense of
Yeah.
how to use them.
Yeah.
They are the mortality in that group. But
yeah, very
as-
much so. And then
I think we can analyze this at another time, but I feel like, at least on my side, I feel like the reason those 2 went is because they volunteered.
Yeah.
I feel like they were like, this is the most dangerous situation.
or the
Let's
most
fucking go
the
for it.
most unknown
The most unknown.
because we don't know how to get that stone.
Maybe
And-
everybody else saw them just as expendable as they saw themselves, and they just accepted that they were like they knew that if there was someone who had to die to do it, that one of them would probably be the least missed in the final battle. Which is true. I mean, obviously Hawkeye had a major part in the final battle of getting the gauntlet out.
I mean, I feel like it was just a plot device just to kill Black Widow. I mean, just because that was her character arc. At least we see at the very beginning of the movie. And,
Right, right,
it
right,
sucks,
right,
but
right.
out of all the people who had the least...
she's like, see you in a minute,
the
right
least
before they
to
time
lose
travel.
and the most to gain, Black Widow fit that to a T.
Yep.
She had no family except
Right.
for the Avengers and all the heroes and a couple people around.
And I knew it was going to come down to a
There.
fight between them. As
Those
soon as
2.
we saw who got sent to the planet, I
Right.
knew that they were going to fight each other to see who
do it.
would be the one that
who was more
sacrificed.
selfless.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
I
it
killed
doesn't.
myself.
I don't know how the rules of the Soul Stone, because Red Skull explains them in both movies in very specific ways, but it seems like Thanos had a very specific kind of love for Gamora, and I thought it was the thing you love most that you have to give up to be able to get the Soul Stone. And so to have that scene with Clint and Nat, and yes, they absolutely love each other. They're like
They're the
brother
only ones
and sister.
that they have left.
Yeah,
on this planet.
Okay. So in that sense of them only having each other left in this planet, I can see how that would be enough to justify one of them dying for the Soul Stone to have the other. But other than that, I feel like it would have been much more of a, hey, we may have loved each other at one time, but now, you have a family, and I've gone off and slept with the rest of the Avengers, and,
my hair color changed every time.
That's right. She gets a new haircut and a hair dye every time she moves to a new Avenger. Like, it was all curly and stuff when she was with Iron Man, and,
No, I thought that was a really emotional scene. Like, a lot of people would say, like, and it wasn't really that big of a deal, but at the same time,
it was shot just like the Gamora scene. Like, it was a shot for shot.
They shot them back to back. I wouldn't be surprised if they shot that at the same time.
It was probably the same templates. I'd say they probably even use, like, when when the Power Stone when the Soul Stone pulses on the building and it goes up into the sky with the little beam, they probably didn't have to recreate those visual shots. They probably just mapped it.
Yeah, they probably just had the
I would
other
like
elements.
Exactly.
I would like to compare the Gamora scene to that one and see if the blood streaks are the same.
They
or
are.
the blood pool.
They are. And in fact, somebody had the theory that because of how time travel would work, the blood that was already on there when Gamora died was actually Black Widow's blood. Because it was, 4 years earlier that she showed up and got the Soul Stone. But that brings
permanent.
Yeah, but that brings back all kinds of questions about how Cap would have returned the Soul Stone and, facing off with Red Skull again. I'm sure there's a whole movie or series of Cap going back and figuring out, like, what did he have to do? Did he put it back and somebody came back to life? Or, there has to be, if there's a trade to get it, it makes sense that there would be some sort of way to have
payment to giving it.
Yeah, exactly. Or something. I don't know. But that's
we'll get to that returns argument, because that was where most of the debate comes
with the time travel and everything. So then we talk about
Star-Lord without the background music.
Oh my gosh! Come and get your love. So he's an idiot. That's so great. I really love that they did that.
And that movie was such like, the details of that scene were lost on me for so long, because it's been a minute since I've watched it. I don't remember how he turned that little force field off.
Oh, he doesn't turn the force field off. He uses a magnet thing on the floor to pull it. And so it's like Nebula's just like, fuck this, I'll do, that, which is why past Nebula has her hand wrapped up later on in the movie when she comes to let Thanos back.
To hide from Rhodey that her shit was fucked.
Yeah, so then we have Rogers and Stark go back to 1970.
Yep.
And Stark meets with his dad. Cap sees Peggy.
Yeah, foreshadowing with Peggy.
I don't know. There's glowing green in the mail. You better get down here quick.
It's having.
He was very convincing too.
Young Michael Douglas.
Yeah,
that was cool. And then the fact that Cap only took 4 vials, like, this is where, like, you could really analyze how the time travel worked, to get the stones back, because he only took 4 vials. 1 vial is 2 trips.
Well, Hank came back, so they would have more Pym particles at that point, because Hank had been brought back from the snap.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So they would have Hank would have his lab or whatever he needed. His
Lego.
Yeah, his
Lego lab.
His Lego lab and his secret formula. At least that's the way I saw it. But.
Because apparently, we don't. I guess this is Kerbal Space Program. Here it comes again. Time travel does not account for galactic drift. Or
showing up in another place in space entirely.
The orbit of the planets or anything like that. Because if Cap had to go back, I guess it's a location coordinate as well as time coordinate.
Yes, space and time.
He jumps back. He's just in the middle of a fucking
he's just space. He's just floating, or he's halfway in a planet, or
something.
Yeah.
Like it's not good, but
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. But, like, when we talk about how many vials he took, like, I don't know, I maybe would have grabbed a couple extra in case some more mistakes happened.
Right. Right. In case they fucked up more. And then they took he gets the...
Well, he did grab it first.
Yeah. They did get the Space Stone first and make sure that they had... I didn't care for that scene too much with Iron Man and his dad.
That was the moment I knew that it was probably going to be Tony Stark who died.
That was a lot of foreshadowing in there.
Yeah. Just right there, because up until this point, I was just assuming that Steve Rogers would die.
I really, actually, to be honest with you, I really wanted a scene where Tony had to fist fight his dad.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, there's no way that Howard Stark would have been that dumb to believe that
Right,
this future-looking dude
right.
with the beatnik beard
yeah.
is just wandering around in a
Bee Gees
maximum
weird, or-
security facility without a name badge visible.
Right.
And
He's
it
like, hey,
doesn't-
what are you doing down
asking
here?
some real weird questions using modern-day slang.
And then just having a regular conversation about personal details of his life with him.
Yeah,
and,
I half expected
yeah.
him to be like, to turn on him like in the elevator or something like that.
You're
try
a
to-
piece of
like-
shit.
and like they have to fight. I thought that would have been pretty cool.
I
Or,
mean,
like,
yeah,
trying
but
to
I
get
mean, it
him
hasn't been
arrested.
leading up. Ever since what was it? Iron Man
Winter
2?
Soldier.
No,
or-
when he was building the arc reactor based off the hint his dad left and the model and stuff like that.
That's a map on a model of
It
some
was
World's
kinda
Fair.
weird, but like that right there started. I don't know. I feel like he was just like, my dad was kind of an asshole, but everything he did kind of had a point. Blah 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 blah. And he even said it then. But yeah, it was kind of a man moment for me. Like I get it, I understand why they did it.
Yeah, it
So
was
Tony
neat
could
to give him
get
that closure. Yeah, and then Cap sees Peggy, which as I'm sure what puts
It's
the
all
idea in his head of
foreshadowing, yeah.
exactly, moving on with that. And so let's touch on past Thanos and past Nebula and this brilliant use of two
Nebula.
Nebulas in the same time.
On the same network.
The same network link, and then Maud sees what's going on and downloads all of it, and I think that's one of my favorite uses of a past character, like because whether they were trying to set that up in Guardians 2 by making Nebula a good character now. By the time they got to writing this movie and they're back in time, they probably reached the same conclusion like Nebula did. Is like, well, they're not the only ones looking for the stones right now. This gives us a great opportunity. And then they switch them, and you got the whole switcheroo trope.
It's just such a like it's so story plotty because like it showed after they first connected to her that she regained consciousness for a second before they started teleporting her up. She still had opportunity to. It's like 2 button presses. Activate the suit, press the button, and
Get
you
out
go.
of there. Yeah.
Like-
I agree with it.
Do you think
she
maybe the network could have an effect on her processing?
That's what it says in here on
It's
the little plot thing.
probably-
Due to her being connected to the other Nebula, she was unable to jump at the same time that Rhodey did. But in all of that time between between her having that moment and figuring out that Thanos now knows, and her running to the ship and trying to make the message, and then Thanos' ship is already there and is like now abducting her, I feel like she definitely could have had enough time to get away.
Well, my question
or fly the ship away.
is how
Why?
did they first detect that there was like an anomaly or something like that, or
No,
overhear
I think
something?
it was the mentioning of the Power Stone, because they were talking about finding the Power Stone on Morag. They were mentioning that they had that Ronan had just found it and figured out where it was, and,
and
that
he was headed to Morag.
yeah, and so
he got out of there.
and so
and
Nebula
Star-Lord
is
got out.
probably thinking about it, and it triggered something in her mind of Rhodey also at the same time talking about the Power
And that's
Stone.
why Thanos' ship was even in orbit in the first place, in range to do the interfering. Because I'm about to say Nebula is just a person; she doesn't have intergalactic transmitting range.
Right.
Anyway, so we got through that, and then that whole dissecting of it, and watching the video feed from the future and all that stuff, and
Realizing his destiny of being killed, and
I think that that's something that I talked about with Joel earlier, and I want to say that absolutely changed who Thanos was and his motivations going forward. Because, like I said earlier, Thanos back on after he did the snap, he was compassionate. He he understood nobody would understand this, but it was for the greater good. Thanos at that point finding out that he did that and that there was a way to reverse it completely changed his thought process. He became way more aggressive and way more fueled. And I don't think a lot of people realize how strong Thanos is. Like he's a titan. Like I mean, eternal and whichever way they're gonna call it now. The planet was Titan. I don't know if they're Eternals, but in the stories he was a mutant. He was a mutant for his people. That's why he was stronger and all this other stuff.
Right.
But I don't know if they're gonna do that for his background if they ever get to it. Probably doesn't matter. But
young Thanos.
yeah. But Thanos, I mean,
Only on Netflix.
beat the shit out of the Hulk without a Power Stone.
Right.
Like, Thanos is a fucking
Beast.
And I'm really glad that they showed that not only because we didn't really see him in war mode in Infinity War. We saw him come down and grab the.
He was letting other people do the
war-
dirty
yeah,
work.
the
Right.
We
war
didn't
was
have to
already
worry
over.
about his little double blade thing, apparently made out of greater than vibranium.
oh, is it like Uru metal?
Well, it busted Cap's shield.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, vibranium can destroy vibranium. Like when what's his face, Black Panther scratches his shield in Civil War and things like that.
Okay.
So yeah, and honestly, we see Thanos not even. I mean, we just see his motivations change once he finds out that he won, but there's a chance they could lose. When he's talking about,
Right.
Ever since I started this journey, it's never been personal, but now I am going to completely enjoy demolishing your
Right.
planet.
He's much more of a machinating type villain and not as much of a sympathetic one anymore. But he did, like, I think that it gave him an arc in his character still, because it's still like all of a sudden he's very much not the protagonist of this movie. This movie is the Avengers story of going and gathering. It's like their Infinity Quest. And then the first one was Thanos' Infinity Quest.
I think Thanos' biggest strength, the thing that's made him possibly the greatest villain, and I want to say in almost any movie ever, was his ambition. His ambition is what makes him strong. I mean, he's strong, but that ambition alone completely changed who he was, and we get to see him.
Well, the
kick
fact
ass.
that he remained a level-headed in every situation, nothing phased him. Nothing was not expected or not planned for it. At least that. So in this aspect, where you could argue that once he saw his own demise, it either caused a crack in his resolve, as far as
that was the end of him.
I thought I knew what I wanted. Now and then in return for them going to all this effort to undo what I did, I'm going to destroy everything and start from scratch.
Right. And then they'll have a grateful universe. So
One
yeah,
with no memory of the way it was before.
You won't be alive to tell them.
It's almost like an out of spite thing,
right?
Instead, because for most of the universe, they don't even know what the fuck just happened.
Right. Right.
It's only like Earth and a select couple planets that know anything about Infinity Stones and Thanos doing anything. Everyone else was just minding their own business, and half their population disappeared.
They just thought it was the Rapture.
And then at that same time, after we could get into a eugenics conversation about it's like, the oceans are cleaner, there's enough food for everybody, and it's like, dude had a point. There is too many damn people.
Warrior, Thanos.
Right, exactly. Which I think they definitely did. They did a lot to improve on his character from the comics. Like much more in the comics, he was much more over the top Shakespearean type,
riding helicopters and
the Thanos copter. Yes, absolutely. Picture here.
But I hated his motivations in the comics, like an unattainable.
I just want
love
death
of
to
death.
love me.
I just want death to love me. So yeah, definitely they expanded his character a lot. So then we get switcheroo with Nebula, and everybody comes back with the stones, and
they make a Hulk gauntlet.
The Hulk realizes, he's the first one to ask about Nat, and they realize that she's dead, and they give her. I'm kind of mad they didn't give her much more of a memorial service than this. I mean, she didn't have family, and she wasn't as close to a lot of the other Avengers, so this was their moment to kind of honor her, and it's the angriest you really see the Hulk get in the whole movie, which is really touching. As angry as it is, it's him punching the time machine and then throwing that bench across the lake. And that's the angriest you get to see him at that point, and they're like, okay, we've got to do this, and Hulk, is like, okay, this thing is emitting gamma radiation. How did they make a gauntlet that holds the stones when Thanos had to go to Peter Dinklage to get one? I don't know.
Well, there's theories about that.
Right.
About the whole thing about Thor and Asgard is they're aliens with super advanced tech. They just like it to look medieval and old school.
Well, not only that, but they have the original Infinity Gauntlet when his arm was cut off.
I did not even think about that
in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I did not even think about that.
He has the skeletal structure to make his version of a Infinity Gauntlet. He doesn't have to think about it too much. You just have to find materials that could facilitate the same design.
Interesting. Okay. I did not think about that before. So
possibly all vibranium.
Yeah, exactly. And
that would be a very good material to make that out of.
Yeah, well, they are talking with Wakanda and Okoye and all that. So yeah, so then they decide to snap it, and Thor tries to do it, and they're like, he's like, I'm the strongest.
Not in the right state of mind.
Yeah, he may have been the strongest Avenger, but Hulk wins the argument, and the most Bruce Willis, he's like, I gotta do this. Like the way he says it, he's gotta be me. Like just the way he does that was so Willisy. And so he puts it on, and he snaps it, and of course you think nothing happens at first, and then you hear the phone ring.
Birds and and then you figure out that Hawkeye paid his wife's phone bill for 5 years to keep his line active.
was?
That's really good. That's
first
a
off,
good
Hashtag
point.
let it go.
What if it was FaceTime?
Right, exactly. It could have been just on Facebook Messenger.
Like, what? My
It's
phone?
not like there's a line of people waiting to get new phone numbers.
Right, exactly.
But,
And then you get that shot of just Ant-Man standing there,
looking at the
you know.
birds, and then right there, you don't hear any noise.
Oh yeah,
from the
Nebula
ship
brings Thanos back. We didn't mention that while
With
this
the
is all
ship.
happening with the snap. So
with his warship, and you just see the ship, and you just see it fire.
How much power does Pym particles have as far as like do
not
they get
destroying Ant-Man's face. Like when, because I thought he would have been dead for sure.
I'm just saying, like, I thought there was a limitation at least to using the Pym particles for, like, that ship is fucking gigantic.
That's what I thought. But Nebula, I mean, they can shrink whatever.
Well, they're also a futuristic technology that now that they have these particles, then they know that they
They're
can.
probably like
they
Pym
did their own
particles.
time
That-
machine. Like
not
they
only
had to
that,
have a
but-
GPS. They didn't have a GPS thing, a time GPS or whatever.
They
like,
had nebulas. They knew exactly what time to come back to.
They did have nebulas.
And they had Nebula's memories
Oh.
of how Ant-Man uses his Pym particles.
That's right. So if she had two, and she used one to get back, and she gave them one, I just don't understand how it would get a whole goddamn ship through, unless they did something with the shield.
She
Well,
brought
Ebony
she
Maw.
brought the ship back with her.
No,
Pocket size.
She would have
No.
had to have been wearing the GPS to get
No,
back.
she opened up a portal. She unwrapped her hand, went and typed in, and then it said opening destination 2014.
Oh,
and then it flies
then-
out of the roof and breaks the roof open and goes into the sky, all while they're doing the snap. So they don't even notice it. And you can see the ship expanding and getting bigger and bigger as it goes into the sky.
That's lame. I
So
thought
it
I
comes-
thought they shrank the ship.
No, you see it coming
and
out
it
of the
allowed
quantum
it to come
realm.
through there, and then
Well, they did. They technically did shrink it because they put it into the quantum realm, and that's all of them had to shrink to go into it.
that's what I mean. Like you have to shrink it, the whole ship, to get into the quantum realm. And how does your Pym particles have some kind of limitation of how much surface area? Otherwise, you can have a fucking accident and shrink the planet.
Yeah.
Whoopsie! I dropped
And then-
I dropped the Kool-Aid
You
picture
know,
of Pym
wouldn't,
particles.
wouldn't that be about a bitch if that's how they'll have to save the planet in Ant-Man 3?
Right.
like,
Right.
like a giant comet's coming to take out the Earth. What do we do?
We shrink the Earth.
Honey, I shrunk the planet.
Honey, I Shrunk the Planet. I want to see an Ant-Man Wayne Zelensky crossover.
That's a cool,
I want.
I like
like
that
that.
idea.
I
That's
want-
a cool that's like something that you don't ever see. That would be finally like we figured
Honey,
out
I
the
Shrunk
plot.
the Planet Hulk. Like, you get
Or
Jeff
they-
Goldblum in there. You get Rick Moranis, Jeff Goldblum, Mark Ruffalo.
I would
you know.
love to see the Master and the Collector because they're brothers.
Well, Collector's dead now.
We don't see him die on screen.
All right, that's fair. I'll give you that one.
And we don't like the other thing too is like when they decided to do the snap, are they only bringing the people that Thanos killed back?
This
or
is-
why wouldn't you be able to just snap and be like anyone that was related to like getting killed as a direct result of
He said he tried to bring anybody who got killed by the Soul Stone or within the 5 years of that time period since Thanos came to Earth.
Yeah.
So Vision is definitely still dead.
well, he was attached to a stone, so
Right, Gamora dead. Well, with the Vision though, they can come back with Gray Vision. I just think they maybe hadn't had a chance to do that yet. Like Shuri was in the process of trying to remove the Mind Stone from his head before all that happened, but the people in the 5 years that died stay dead. And Hulk said I tried to bring Nat back and I couldn't. And I think Gamora, like we were talking about this earlier, of how why would Gamora still be alive if she came back from the past? And when Tony snapped it, he said, "Okay, anybody who was following Thanos gets dusted
Or
away."
anyone in
Yeah,
Thanos' army. And at that point, she was fighting against
Yeah, she was fighting
well,
against
he
him.
didn't
So
he
her
didn't know who Gamora was, but maybe
Tony didn't.
well, you're talking about all the stones. So the Mind Stone, the Soul Stone, everything, all those powers combined together. So the Soul Stone would probably have a way to detect what your allegiance was if you wanted to.
Okay. I could definitely.
see the Soul Stone is to see who a person, or see what the
What
person is inside.
truly-
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I will totally accept that answer. So
Okay.
we get the Avengers facility getting blown up. We get
Obliterated.
it just
Like,
blown to
Which was
shit.
nice. It wasn't just one shot.
Like Control Alt Delete End Task Avengers Facility. It's fucking like no chance to close any
Crater.
programs. It's
Nope.
gone.
It
Done.
was like a fucking Mac cannon from Halo.
And
blasting
everyone
the planet.
everyone made it out unmaimed.
Oh,
I'm like,
exactly.
what?
Yeah. Yeah. Hulk's holding up the thing, and they
Well,
almost drowned.
If it wasn't for
Cripple
Ant-Man,
Rhodey.
if it wasn't for Ant-Man, Hulk, well, probably not Hulk, but Rhodey would have died. Rocket would have died.
Right. He brings them all out of there as Giant Man. It's so great seeing little Hulk come out of Giant Man's
especially because he
hand.
kept calling him puny, or he kept calling him Tiny Man, Tiny all fucking the movie.
So then we get to the big battle at the end, and this is just
callback after callback after callback.
So many. It's just there's
so
things
good.
happening in the background that I'm gonna have to go back and watch a million times. I don't see Mantis use her powers one time. She's the only person that
There's
I could.
not a whole lot she could really.
I know.
Get into. She was just there.
I just like her
Right.
fighting style. It's like
It's
a
just
Mantis.
like she's like sleep or something,
Or she's like,
or whatever she
oh,
does.
what if she could just touch him and be like, go fight? one of your
Well,
people?"
she. Oh, like she's just like the empath
Because
thing
you
where
see
she
her,
just
you see her in the background, and she's like
turning folks.
she's looking around. I don't know, like you just see her on a pile of bodies, and she's just looking around at stuff. I don't know if she's like reaching out and trying to do
Kill
shit.
yourself.
Stab, 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 stab.
Seppuku. But
But-
yeah, you get to the okay, so you get the big three. Versus,
Oh my God! Call back to the first one when they were fighting in Avengers in the woods.
I didn't get that at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back when they first met, Cap versus Iron Man versus Thor, and they were fighting in the woods, and they were the first three out there. And you see a lot of callbacks to that fight with the
him
refractoring,
supercharging hit Tony's suit.
refractoring against Thanos' sword, which I guess they didn't see coming because that's how they got Loki. They got somebody doing that in Avengers.
In the first Avengers, it's the scene. It's right when the big when they're all jumping into battle. Iron Man hops down, goes and shoots a beam, and it goes off of Thor's or goes off of Captain America's shield and ends up hitting the Chitauri.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So we get to see that refractor, which is cool because you don't really get to see that often. So that's why I'm thinking Thanos' blades were vibranium.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that might have done that.
At least vibranium.
And then we get to see
Especially the abuse that they went through and were able to sustain from like continued Mjolnir hits and everything else.
right.
Stormbreaker.
And to be
everything.
fair, Cap Shield's not 100% vibranium.
It's supposed to be vibranium adamantium alloy.
But they didn't have the rights to adamantium yet.
No, they didn't.
It's
have the rights.
it's
So
unobtainium.
I dig it.
So yeah,
what he
it's
did there.
in the movie.
I understood that
it's
reference.
just vibranium.
Oh man, I really hope this movie knocks off Avatar because I don't remember a goddamn thing about it except for Jake Sully.
It's not only shattered records. Like okay, so like the last Avengers movie was just $10 million above the highest grossing film that it was above. So like Avengers Infinity War was $250 million, $257 million. The one below that was $242 million, and then Avengers Endgame is $350 million
Like
in
opening
domestic.
weekend.
$100 million more than all of these films that were only roughly $10 million more than the ones above it. That's how much it obliterated box office records in
it got
America.
to what, $1.4 billion in three,
yes,
4 days?
yes, internationally.
Internationally.
So we can talk about the fourth wall effects of the movie in just a second.
Yeah, well,
So
we get to this battle.
Spider-Man instant kill.
Okay,
Oh.
wait. We get
We're
to
gonna go
on your left.
sequential
Yeah,
order.
Okay, yeah.
And then, oh man, that's honestly Captain America's shot. This is why I thought he was gonna die because Thor. Oh man,
Well, Thanos bitch slapped
Iron Man real
and,
quick.
and presumably he's just KO'd for
ever.
an
We don't see him.
indeterminate amount of
yes,
time.
yes,
And
yes.
then,
And Thor.
starts dual handing or two handing the weapons, and Thanos catches him, puts it to his chest.
Yeah,
but
that's
there's
right,
at one
that's
point
right.
when it was.
I thought it was already in.
Yeah, true.
This is where we are. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was sitting there. I was like, "Holy fuck!" And then it zooms in just a little bit on his hammer. I was like, "Is hammer moving on it by itself?" And I was like, "Could it be Vision? Vision coming back? Gray Vision coming?"
Right.
I was like, "Has he be hiding out in Wakanda like everybody else for plot devices?" And then all of a sudden you see it just fucking smack the shit out of Thanos, and then it stops, and then it comes back, and you just see fucking Cap standing.
Much like Rey catching the lightsaber in Force Awakens.
Yeah, just like he had known he could do this for a
Dun,
long fucking. You ever think that
so good.
maybe when Thor wasn't paying attention, he just picked
He's
it up and
playing
swung
with
it around?
Yeah.
And then because the big thing about the
yeah,
hammer
it seems
is,
like he knows what he's doing with it real quick. Like
Yeah.
he's seen Thor doing it. It's like, oh, okay.
yeah, and that's what I'm thinking.
lightning,
It's like
you know?
maybe. Probably that's why I think he just didn't do it at that party because he's a cool guy, and like when nobody's around, he's like. And then, because the thing about the hammer is, if you're worthy enough to wield it, you get the powers of Thor, including the lightning.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And so
He got the Ragnarok powers though. Like he's it seems like he got to that super powered level that it took a while for Thor to even get
well,
to.
maybe it scales with Thor's power and goes up. Thor's level.
Well, Thor's power is internal, and I think Mjolnir like amplified it.
He didn't have the hammer at that point.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, we've never seen Thor with Mjolnir and his like awakened power too.
Like his wokeness.
His wokeness.
That Odin gave him. Odin was like, the power was in you all along. Like,
And that now,
had
and then it
all
made sense.
along.
It wasn't like all campy either, because it's like the power of Thor.
Yeah.
So why would the power of Thor
You're not the god of hammers.
only be the hammer?
Right.
Like it was built in.
Yeah.
And the hammer just kind of channeled and amplified it.
Honestly, then you just see the fucking greatest thing ever, which is Cap just beating the shit
Do the little
out of
swingy
Thanos.
uppercut and everything, man.
And my favorite part
K.O.
is back in Avengers 1 when they're fighting, and he does the clang of the hammer against the shield to that concussion blast and throw Thanos
They do that
on
in
his ass.
Age of Ultron when he was like they're lining up. He's like, well, they're
Oh, yeah.
excited, and
That's right.
but right before they go meet Baron von Strucker. So yeah, that's
Oh, and that was just my favorite thing.
And then didn't he do a combo where like he threw his shield and then it like went past Thanos and then he threw the hammer
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
brought the hammer back with the shield in it and like turned into like a little battering ram or something like that.
dude,
There's so many little things.
It was so fucking
I need to watch
good.
it like frame by frame.
But I mean, as all things come to an end, eventually Thanos does get the slight upper hand. He grabs his sword and he just goes to fucking town on Cap's shield. And then he stabs him in the leg too. And I was like, this is it. And then he just fucking bitch slaps. He slaps him across a football field. And he's just talking to him. He's like, I'm gonna enjoy fucking crushing your planet.
and now we're gonna sit here and wait for just a moment.
Let that sink in. And then
I'm gonna enjoy
this part brought me to tears because, like I said, Cap is my favorite hero. And up until this point, I just assumed he was dead. He was going to be the one who dies. And I thought, this is
the
how he
moment.
dies.
This is the
You
moment he
just see
tightens the
Thanos,
shield.
You
and
see the fucking space whales coming out of nowhere, all the land armies, the tanks,
Oh, yeah.
the monsters.
And then you see this shot right here.
The Black Order coming out. And then all of a sudden you just see fucking Cap strap on that shield. And then you just see this beautiful lighting effect in the background, which I wanted to have more information because there's a good story about it. How that was a last minute thing in Thor Ragnarok where the Valkyries go into battle.
Right,
it was
right,
based
right.
off like somebody just saying, hey, it would be cool if we did this. And Taika Waititi was like,
Let's do that.
that's a great idea. And that's exactly what they did for this. The lighting and effects are beautiful. And that's going to be my screensaver for the rest of my life because it's just Cap's silhouette slowly walking towards
It's
infinite
so
death.
great. Yeah.
Like just inevitable death.
Right. He's him versus the entire army, and it doesn't show anybody else back there.
And you can just see he's getting ready. Like he doesn't know if he's about
He
to charge.
he
him.
knows what's gonna happen. What he's going to
about to
try
do.
to do anyways.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden,
And then all of a sudden, Cap. And I was like, oh, Iron Man's up. And he's like, it's Sam. And I was like, no, it's not Iron Man. It's. And then all of a sudden you're just like, what the fuck is? How close is this guy? What's the range on this thing? And then.
on your left.
And then all of a sudden, like, and I was in a theater full of people. That's why I love these movies, is because all of a sudden,
we already had the Thor, like the Mjolnir Captain America moment as a group.
yes,
Right.
honestly, the last 45 minutes of the movie, everybody was screaming and clapping and happy.
Oh yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
It's like a school cafeteria.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
After a food fight, like, oh my god. But then, and then you just see who was it? Who came first? Oh, it was Sam. Came
It was
first.
Sam.
No, it wasn't. It was Black Panther and
Oh,
the,
Black
and
Panther,
the,
that's
and the
right.
Wakandans.
Oh, and
yeah,
he gives him
they
that
walked
fucking
through.
head nod. He was like,
Hello, Steve.
just, I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers.
Right.
Which is
I
my
see you
favorite
stole
part.
my beard.
But then, yeah, and that was, and then all of a sudden you see one, and then you just start seeing them more
All
pop
of
up.
them.
Falcon flies out, and all of the
Bucky
people.
comes out with his.
Bucky comes
Yeah.
out.
Everybody
then
from Titan
Groot-
starts hopping out, and you see Spider-Man show up, Doctor
New-
Strange.
New Asgard, all the people.
yeah, it shows New Asgard in the one of the, and you can look in the portals and see the
where they're
different
coming from.
locations.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Ravengers.
Because you see Wakanda front and center because
Yeah.
they got their whole Wakandan army.
right.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Uwambe, Iwambe,
Mbaku.
Iwambe. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you see Mbaku, Shuri is back.
Everybody.
Yeah, so everybody's back in, and they're all lined up, and you get that moment, and Cap goes Avengers, and he's pissed off, assemble, and just everybody.
My favorite thing
just-
is he didn't even scream it. He just said assemble.
Right.
And
It's
I
Like,
was
we didn't hear you.
Yeah,
What did you say?
Can you say that again from back here? And apparently, one thing we noticed in the fight is like when Cap is talking, Valkyrie responds to him. At what point did Valkyrie put a communicator in her ear?
And get
Or-
all
or-
communicated.
What if
Like-
she was the same? What if Natasha talked to her like everybody else? Maybe that could be a thing. I don't know. I'm just assuming
they
were
had
just,
like a backup system
maybe they were just
installed
like,
all
look,
across
we're,
the
we're all
globe.
that's left for the world after all this shit. Maybe.
So
we
you
can
think
keep
she
in
was in? Oh,
contact.
yeah, you know what? She was in contact with Valkyrie because that's how she knew where Thor was and everything.
Yep.
And okay, well,
Okay,
They at least
that's
knew where they
satisfied enough.
Yeah.
but
then,
yeah,
Oh, and there was that. Oh, that moment where they all charge in. You just see everybody fucking running.
Full speed ahead.
Oh, God, it was so good. Oh, I came so many times during that battle scene.
Yeah, every single scene is a callback. You got Drax stabbing the guy.
Honestly, I'm kind of upset that Drax didn't get another whack at Thanos. Or a whack at Thanos, because, I mean, that's his entire purpose.
That was all we saw of Drax, by the way. There was no other Drax.
He was in the funeral scene.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't see any like crazy combat.
Right.
And that was the thing is they like in the in the movies they nerfed the shit out of Drax. Drax was supposed to be as strong as Thanos.
Oh, really?
That was his purpose. Was he was pure rage brought back by Thanos killing his family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he came back.
I think he should have been stronger, but they had to dumb him down for Guardians.
And they made him a joke character.
Which is weird because now they have Thor.
Right. And you get Rescue showing up. You get all of these other characters that you haven't seen.
Pepper come in. That was a nice moment.
Right.
And then we had to think about the timelines here. It's like, how long has it been since Hulk snap? We're talking
long enough for them to all show up where they were and for the sorcerers to band together to portal them in.
I mean, in the movie, we're talking about like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
But in movie time, how much time would that even translate
Probably
to?
20 or 30.
20, 30
Because, I mean,
minutes
Doctor
or
Strange knew where they were going to be.
Yeah.
Well, he probably he saw all the possible futures,
so
so
he
he knew
knew
exactly
where
what
to
to
go.
do.
And
who to contact. Basically, sorcerers first. I need you to go here. I need you to go here, 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 here.
Right.
The only thing that I don't understand is how they got to the Ravagers. I'm assuming none of the sorcerers had been to that.
I mean,
planet.
the robot whorehouse planet.
Yeah.
I mean,
but at the same time, it's crazy too to think about. Everybody that just came to that battle had just gotten out of a battle. So, ammunition stores, everything. Like, Bucky shouldn't have had, like, very much shots left in his gun.
Parker should have looked way more beat up than he did.
No one was fresh. Parker's suit was still pristine. There's some plot holes.
Little plot holes
Look,
there.
man,
Pretty sure Black Panther got his shit pushed
maybe
in
the Soul
too.
Stone.
Yeah.
Maybe they're taking baths in the Soul Stone, and it's like you get like
They got
health levels up.
Well, they don't
mana
remember
levels up.
anything. They just got dusty.
They just got dusted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh yeah, we were fighting, and then I was gone."
He's like, you remember when we were on another planet? Remember when we went to space, and then I felt all dusty, and then now we're here, and Doctor Strange showed up, and he's
I
like,
had
hey,
indigestion.
And then
Unless
that Tony hug.
Unless like the sorcerers all had like a fucking economy size bag from Sam's Club of sensu beans, and they were just like passing them out. It's like, all right, y'all get power back up.
What another good thing is when Thanos was walking and Scarlet Witch shows up. She's like, "You took everything from me." He's like, "I don't even know."
For me, it was a Tuesday.
She's like, "Oh, you will."
I just love the fact that like her alone, undistracted, is enough to take Thanos down.
Oh, right,
Not even
absolutely.
enough to take him down, but
if
to
she
smirk while
but
she does
if
it.
she wasn't so clouded by rage and she had more efficiency in her mind, she could have just lopped his head off or
And a lot of
busted
people
some internal organs or something like
A lot of people were
that.
saying that Captain Marvel is the strongest character in this show, but I still think Scarlet Witch
that push-up bra was strong enough on its own. Like,
them titties, them titties were mad.
They were magic. They were some black magic.
And then they're oh dude, and another thing is Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye's running with the gauntlet.
Yes,
through-
I thought it was football, and you saw it as something completely different.
Yeah, I was like, they're literally passing the
rugby.
torch. It's a relay race.
They're passing the torch to the new characters.
Because Jeremy Renner is the last one from the original Avengers to hold it. Everyone after that is from the new movies, except for Valkyrie. I don't know if she held it for that long.
Well, she picked Peter up that had it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay. Well, yeah. So, but after that, everybody's new. Black Panther. Peter.
My thing about this whole entire situation, I'm like, as soon as Captain Marvel got there and she was like, "Oh, hi, Peter Parker, you got something for me?" and he hands it over to her, like, what do you think step one would be?
Put it on.
Strongest character in the known Marvel
Put it
universe. Put that motherfucker on and end this shit right now.
That's a really good point.
That
But
is-
he didn't know. But the goal wasn't at that time to use the stones themselves. There was never the point. Like, the only reason they had it was
to bring everyone
back. And once
they
they
were
did
all
that,
such good guys that they didn't want to think about.
right? They didn't want to use it to destroy it. They
Abusing
wanted
it
to use
or-
it to take the stones back. And if they took the stones back, what then? They would have just beat Thanos like the regular way. Just like
Well, I imagine so. I mean, the Marvel just took out a ship. They were stranded. They
You
killed
were
a lot
stuck
of
with
them.
this problem.
Yeah, you were stuck with this problem. But I mean, with all of them still there together with new troops, thousands of them.
Right.
They're all battled. They've already been worn out. All the good guys have already been worn out from the last battle.
Which, did they get more Outriders
also,
from another planet?
Thanos did blow the shit out of his own troops, too.
He did, yeah.
Basically decimated half the armies.
Yeah, that he had.
So, because we were talking about this, is all of the armies that he had were on that ship that they brought back, right? From 2014, all of the apes and everything in the Black Order. None of that was from the current time that he just had beamed there from elsewhere in space.
No, it was all current time.
Because he was like, we didn't think. I was like, how do you fit all of that shit onto one spaceship?
It's a big ship.
Oh.
Well, you remember how big Ronan's ship was?
Right.
And
the Dark Aster.
And Ronan's ship is probably like fucking a dingleberry on his ship.
I remember that. I remember the twist, yeah.
That was cool. But another thing I wanted to point out is back when they were doing the gauntlet, and a lot of people were bitching about this because there was a scene where it was all the female heroes lined up. Right. Now, hold on. See, I thought the same thing on my first watch. Now, hold on. They do a line in there that calls back to Infinity War.
Listen to his point.
Okay.
On this.
So in Infinity War, it is Proxima Midnight fighting Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch, and then also Okoye and...
Yeah, no, they weren't there yet. She was like, you're going to die, he's going to die, or you're all alone or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And then Black Widow shows up, and she's like, she's not alone. And then they did the same fucking line with all those girls. And it was basically like passing the torch, because Black Widow was the only female character in almost all the Avengers movies up until the newest phase. And that was kind of just like, it's in good hands. It was like a good send-off for her character.
Right, because she wasn't in the final battle, so that was their way of like nodding to her.
Yeah, to getting there, because she sacrificed her life, not just for planet Earth, but the universe. That's why they had all those characters there. And honestly, it did annoy me, and it totally took me out of the moment. But watching it a second time and hearing that line, I completely understand why they did it.
Okay, the symbolism behind it, I'm for that. But as far as a battlefield,
it was totally unnecessary. Captain Marvel could have easily just flown through them all by herself.
Here's the thing: the battlefield is we're looking at.
Right? How do they all run to the same place?
Yeah, we're at least looking at like maybe a half-mile wide to a mile wide battlefield here. By the time everyone's kind of spread out, how are all those female characters? Only female, all together, for the same purpose.
This is why you won't have an all-female Avengers movie, because there's no story that would explain why it would specifically be all-female characters doing that, which is why they probably did this scene.
But I had a coworker
Time travel.
that was...
Time travel is a major plot device.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I had a coworker that she saw the movie, and she was even annoyed at the girl power thing, and she was like, why the fuck did they do that? That served no point. It doesn't make any sense. Like, who are you serving except for like the preteen girls to try to get them like girl powered?
I think there's also
a lot of t-shirts to be sold.
There's a shift in Hollywood right now in general with the feminine. Like, Star Wars has had very much more of a focus on girl characters and passing it to Rey as the main protagonist. And I think in general it's their way of trying to be overtly politically correct in a way, or
I feel like it
could
have just been done much better.
Yeah, you could have had.
They could have
already been out there.
They could have had a couple of like little scenes.
Not every single female one that was possibly there.
They could have had a couple female centric scenes put together where maybe
Nebula
two of them.
Gamora stuff was great. That was good female plot that didn't involve a man. It passed the Bechdel test.
Well, all I feel like they could have done to achieve the same thing without taking us as an audience out of the loop was have just a couple of straight up battle scenes where you've got two of the female characters together and they're helping each other out, and it kind of explains why they're like end up gravitating towards each other instead of just be like, we ain't got nothing else fucking better to do.
The story
Let's
dictates
stick
that this is what's going to happen now.
One of us had to go to the bathroom. It's something stupid. Like,
sorry, Shuri couldn't be here right now.
It could have been like like somebody's fighting one of the characters and another female character came in and saved them.
Right.
And then they're like, we got to stick together. And
see, the way I would have done it, if it was up to me, is very much along the lines of what you were doing, but I would have not, like, a couple of them grouped up, but Captain Marvel would have been flying through the field and watching them. Like, she would just been passing them as they're fighting.
And then they fail. Like, they fail. They don't get it to the time machine in time,
Either way, so that I was like, well, that's a great scene if it would have worked.
Right. So you're saying that our girl power is all a failed effort? Is that what you're getting at with this right now?
Well, yeah, I think it would have been okay, except for Thanos yeeted his sword.
Honestly, I'm surprised Professor Hulk didn't say yeet. one time.
You know, I think him saying "Deb" was cringe enough for me. No, thank you.
Don't eat things around the house.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So we're towards the end of the battle.
All the biggest Avengers come back and get their one last kind of hit on them.
Yeah.
You know,
And then Doctor Strange is. I liked. They showed him doing a couple things. Like there was one spell that he had like multiple things happen at the same time, and he like killed a bunch of dudes or whatever.
Right.
But then his whole attention was tied up with trying to make sure that the water wasn't going to just flood everybody out.
Right.
I felt like they could have done something different with
Namor could have showed up at that point.
I felt like it would have been cool if he like would have used the water tornado to like suck a bunch of their enemies up or something like that,
Absolutely.
and instead of just holding it. But it was neat to keep him restricted because we know Doctor Strange has a lot of tricks up his sleeve that he could have used against Thanos.
Right.
And ever since they made that grave mistake in Infinity War, where they showed him cutting the dude's arm off with a portal,
right, exactly,
opening up infinite reasons to where we can be like,
why can't you do that? And they've cut Thanos' arm off, so they very well could have done that again.
His limbs are detachable.
That's why Hulk has one arm during the battle. I feel
that's why Thor's fat.
You know,
he's not at full strength because Thor's already shown that even when Thanos had full Infinity Gauntlet power, he could throw Stormbreaker through the pushback of the Power Stone and still make it through.
All of them. No, that was all of them. When he threw it, they was using all the stones. That rainbow beam.
He had that much like pent up like rage, and they showed that all these people are capable of doing these things to Thanos. So they had to dial him back a couple, but they did it smart for the most part. And
that's why they kept Captain Marvel out of it for most of the movie.
Right. And then she shows up and gets her hits in, and then Thanos tries to headbutt her.
I kind of wanted Worldbreaker Hulk to take her place and just fucking smash the shit out of that spaceship. Just have it crash.
He's just not big, and he can't do enough damage to it. But I liked the fact that she just came in, and like as soon as I saw like her character show up, I'm like, oh, I know what she's gonna do, and like pass through the ship a couple times. That was cool, and then it made sense though, like when he used the Power Stone, like in that 1000 IQ play.
Oh God, yeah.
Ping. Right.
That was so cool.
That's when Tony. That's the moment I think Tony realizes he can pull the stones off and just have them himself.
I think Tony knew exactly what he was doing, though. He created the external gauntlet, but he still created a backup plan in case he knew he needed the stones.
Okay,
that's why he already had a way to integrate them into
the nanites, just moving them up his hand, and you know.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and pause it to see if we can see the stones
getting removed.
Yeah. Okay. Like in his when he's like fucking with his hand and stuff, like him stealing them, and yeah, absolutely. Because he turns around and in a really great sound design moment, you just hear that clank, that little rusty, you know, and he's like, what the fuck? And turn around, he's like, I am inevitable. He's like, well, you prick, you know, and he pauses. And there's so many things he's saying in between those moments, but like you said, his mind is being flayed by the stones at that point. He's probably not all there.
Mind's melting. That's why he really couldn't talk.
Right, and then he just ends it with "I am Iron Man," which on paper I don't think that works. In practice, in retrospect of everything, it's perfect. You know, so
and it harkens back to the very first,
of course,
MCU oriented movie. You know, it was like that was the line. But man, that last battle scene was just about everything that I wanted.
Yeah. Any other moments we can touch on?
I mean, the after thing. I mean, the funeral.
Well, no, I mean, I want to talk on all that, but I mean, from the battle itself, I know there's so many moments happening all over the screen.
Spider-Man's instant kill mode was great to see in full mode.
Somebody's seen an ugly brown van.
Yeah.
The fact that it survived this orbital bombardment.
Yeah.
Okay. Two moments. Clint, Black Panther calling Clint by name after Civil War when he's like, "My name's Clint." And he's like, "I don't care who you are." And so him calling him by name, and Wasp calling Captain America Cap.
After she chastised him.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't call him Cap.
So you got it, Cap, and. Just every time Ant-Man talks to Captain America, he fanboys out. And he's like, "I absolutely do, Captain America." Or at one point, he's like, Captain America,
Captain Steve Rogers.
Or he's like, "You got this," and Ant-Man's just like, "I do, Captain America." I do got this.
Oh man, so many great.
Scott having to use his thief skills to hotwire the van, like that playing.
I felt that was a bit campy, but
I have to hotwire it. I'm the perfect person for this job.
Like, didn't he just have the keys?
he had the keys, but the battery was dead, and I don't know how hot wiring it would have fixed the fact. Maybe there was like the PIM battery, like whatever was powering that thing.
He had to connect it to the car back.
Yeah, like he was running. They were trying
Look,
to.
man, hey, look, they've made it this far. They're just fucking shoehorning.
Yeah.
Right. No. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
I just like the fact that like he got it running, but they didn't end up using it because he yeeted into it. But so it was like it was just a good way to distract the characters to get them.
But after that, I think that
Quill
was,
getting nutted or kicked in the nutted.
You missed him
it was
the
the first time, but you got them
both.
both the second.
Gamora, like that look on his face, man, just. And
I was still surprised that Gamora still like need him after that like emotional response. Like, why wouldn't you have like backed away
I
before
think that's
you
just
knew,
that's
you knew
just
he was
Guardians.
coming in?
I mean,
to
that was her in Guardians.
That's
1.
Guardians
Yeah,
1
that's true.
Gamora, and now you're gonna have he put
They're gonna have a rom-com like 51st Dates for Guardians 3.
yes with just Chris Pratt
all while Chris Pratt gets emancipated or emaciated,
Emasculated.
whatever,
Yeah, by
emasculated by Thor.
Yes.
What if Gamora falls for Thor and like there's just some sort of tragic. Oh man, or like I don't even want to think. I don't want to think about my boy Chris Pratt getting cucked. You know?
I'm the captain. Yes, you are.
I am the captain now.
Okay, maybe it's just me though too. As far as Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, like great in the first Guardians.
Yeah.
Second one, it started losing some charm for me,
Okay.
and then in Avengers, it seemed like his boyish immaturity and like non-character development outside of his love for Gamora, it got a little bit stale. Like,
They didn't
okay,
really
dude,
know
you
what to
already
do with
ruined some fucking major plans here
Yeah.
by being stupid, and you're gonna keep doing that kind of immaturity, ineptitude thing.
In the middle of a battle.
That was my favorite thing, is that throughout in Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, he was always laying out plans that nobody listened to or followed. And then when they finally do, he's the one who ruins the plans.
That's so true.
He does.
I did not realize
Because he's like, that was my plan. It worked. And then he fucked it up.
And then he
Oh,
hits him in
wow.
the fucking face.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah.
to be fair, that was probably the best thing he could do, because we just saw how strong Thanos was when he took on Thor,
Right,
Iron
right.
Man, and he would have. I mean, Doctor
killed
Strange was
Quill.
there, but
Well, that was the other thing behind it, though, in Infinity War, because that's a whole entire other analysis. The fact that he was like, the fact that you didn't use your greatest weapon, kind of thing. He could have used the weapon. He could have used the Eye of Amagado and like trapped Thanos in an infinite time.
Send him in there with
just like
Dormammu.
Dormammu. Yeah.
I've come to bargain. Right? Thanos, you're a piece of shit.
Already showed it one time that
Yeah.
you could do it.
But they're not going to reuse that just for the movie's sake. So yeah, it actually
Maybe it
does
doesn't work
say,
because he has the Reality Stone with him already.
yeah, it does say Ravagers in here. I'm just and look on the Wikipedia page talking about the
Oh,
Wakanda,
boys.
Asgard, Ravagers.
10:30.
Yeah, man, we're gonna wrap it up right now.
Oh, but to the final scene, it was great to see Jon Favreau talking with Morgan Stark and Jon
Oh
Favreau.
yeah, the cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers. I felt like that was very personal for him. You could even see him getting choked up because that was his. That Tony Stark is his baby.
Yeah.
Iron Man is his kid. And then I like how the Russos finish it off because Captain America is their baby.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that. That's kind of their way of sending him off at the end of the movie with okay, because they did start the Winter Soldier and everything. Yeah, the whole we could get into a lot more with Cap time traveling back, and if it even makes sense for that Cap to be in that timeline.
It does. It's he went back.
Comment below what you think about time travel.
Post a chart if you can.
Like, yeah, I've looked at a lot of things
he
on
just
Reddit.
waited
so.
for Peggy to die.
See, that's the thing about
and
the
then
time
popped
travel
out.
is everybody has a theory about how it works,
No,
even though it
but
explained
he would have
it.
popped back at the place where everybody else did, like
Yeah,
on the
see-
the platform. If he came
yeah.
back,
This is the
Unless
thing.
he adjusted
is
the time to be a couple minutes before
Everyone-
they even set it up and was hanging out on the bench while it all
fuck
happened.
you. No, Hulk had to plug it all up. They were in the
If-
middle of the woods.
My favorite thing about this is everybody has a theory, and they're all posting videos about how the time travel actually works, and everything's going on. And every time I watch one, I'm like, yeah. And then I see another one, I was like, no, that guy's right. And then I go see another one, I'm like, no, that guy's right. And then I'm like, yeah, that guy's right. And I'm just like, oh, they're all, I don't know. what the
You
fuck's
are all
happening.
right.
Yeah, you're
all
all
of your
right.
theories are right.
Also, I did love that because the end. I'm a big old music kind of guy, big band shit, and that song that they danced to at the end was actually a really good one that I actually really enjoy, and it was kind of surprising because I forgot that they actually played that one and I want to say the Winter Soldier when Cap's by himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I did not realize that.
Yep.
I did not like that was the last scene. It just seemed kind of sappy, and I wanted something a little bit more triumphant, Avengers. I wanted something more superhero-y, I guess, is my last closing scene.
No, there's no more heroics after this.
I liked it.
Everybody's taking a vacation.
Right.
But
Well,
my whole thing is, are they going to? How many more storylines are they going to continue in this timeline? Because I really feel they need to walk away from it right now.
You think, but with Spider-Man: Far From Home, half the students are there. Everything now takes place in 2023. Everything
that happens forward from this is absolutely ridiculous, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
You've got 5 years of half the population being gone.
Right.
We don't have enough food on this planet to supply half the other population when they come back.
Right.
Nobody's got jobs. They are all gone. The markets have changed. Everybody's homeless because now your homes are now not where they used to be. Partners that you did have remarried and moved on.
And
so what do they do? Far From Home premieres in just a few months.
To me, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, I don't.
Me neither. That's.
I think the point is that it was never supposed to go back to the way it was. This was a universe-changing event, and it always was going to be from the start.
But I feel like now they can have an arguable faction state being angry at the Avengers that are all the superheroes that are alive for doing this to the world.
Like bringing them back.
They're mad for bringing it back because now they saw what the world could be. With all, and they realized that Thanos was onto something, and now you've brought back overpopulation instantly.
And this could create
no one has enough
villains.
Food, and no one has enough places to live.
Maybe the next villain phases are going to be out of necessity and not out of greed.
But that's why I think like if they were smart, they would fucking abandon this, like close the book on this.
So how do you see them moving forward with things like Black Panther 2 or Doctor Strange 2 or Spider-Man: Far From Home? Any of these new movies, are they going to explain it as like this is the alternate universe that Loki escaped to, and now Loki?
I would love that. I would love, because you have to do the fork of time or the butterfly effect kind of situation where like every fork of time
but
has
you can't have time travel show up in any more movies. It
it
can't be another point unless it's like Cap's Adventures or something. Like the Wanda and Vision series takes place in the 50s that they're doing.
Yeah. It's to me though, like all of these problems that I just described are in real life terms are catastrophic.
True, but also time travel's a thing, so I feel like they're going to MacGuffin the shit out of it. Because one of them, there was food technology and shit like that for cloning. I remember they talking about.
Oh yeah, IntelliCrops, his IntelliCrops and things like that. So
like
that. maybe the Stark Foundation and Pepper, the Relief Foundation, they would find a way to feed people. And
that was one of those things. He's like, I'm not going to make weapons anymore. We're going to look for human aids. So there could be a way around this, just based off. I don't know. Maybe the rich people will do something good. I don't know.
Turns into Elysium.
I don't know, man.
But anyway, so things I did not get to talk about this podcast was the Battlefield Earth drinking game.
Oh yes, this was all going to be Avengers. This wasn't even going to be a running all over the place Stuvies.
I was like, well, we're in 45 minutes in and we haven't even gotten to Thanos the first time yet.
Oh no, I knew that this was going to run long.
It was going to get in depth there.
I was planning
that was
3 hours.
My major plot thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that in post snap, the second snap, how would humanity come to terms with everyone being back?
Right.
How would society adapt, and what?
I like that. I like that idea.
I want more of apocalyptic future instead of this happy-go-lucky Spider-Man.
Right.
Hey, we're going to Paris, y'all.
Right, exactly.
What I think is going to happen is that after the snap, maybe some people come back with a little bit extra than what they left with.
Ooh.
That's what I was thinking. Is like maybe they somehow shoehorn
mutants,
in,
like their time.
I liked that theory as well. Like the epicenter of the snap, the radiation that was put off of that triggered that was the catalyst to start
for
human
metahumans.
mutation.
Okay. All right. I like where this is going a lot. Okay, so everybody, you know what?
Hold on.
And then you can get into like the mutants, like apocalyptic future where everyone hates mutants. Even
the X-Men are going to be the future. Maybe we'll start seeing children version of the older X-Men, like Magneto, and maybe they end up in a war-torn country where they're going to be
instead of Auschwitz to be Magneto's.
It could be like Somalia, or it could be just anywhere where something like resources.
Oh,
like that
so
are
like
confined.
a modern-day retelling of the early X-Men.
Magneto could be a child soldier. Professor X could be, I don't know, some other shit. I don't know, but maybe we'll start seeing them, sort of like how they did with X-Men.
I'll absolutely take that. So any more final thoughts we want to say on things having to do with Endgame? Like we talk, like Thor joins the Guardians, turns over Asgard to Valkyrie. Quillster's apparently Gamora's still alive.
They just can't find her.
Yeah. So
She dipped.
we got Sam Wilson now is going to be Captain America
Wrong
from
choice.
what it would seem like. Yeah. Well,
I don't think he's gonna be Captain.
I
I
don't-
think he's gonna use the shield. But I don't think he's gonna be like, I'm still Falcon.
No, because he's like, I don't want to live in a world where there's not a Captain America in it. And he's like, well, not anymore. And he gives him the shield and he goes, it feels like it's someone else's. And he goes, well, it's not. So that means he's and the nod of Bucky, I would say Bucky's a terrorist. Whether or not he was mind washed, he's been all over the news. He's been shown to have assassinated people.
He himself feels like he's not worthy.
Right, exactly.
And he knew whoever the
Right.
first person was to go over to Cap was probably gonna.
I
don't know.
That's
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's probably not that way.
No, I think it's just because he already had closure with Cap, and he was like, "This is Sam's moment to go."
You know what? Because he already said
Yeah.
goodbye to him
he
and
said
stuff.
goodbye. He's like,
Oh, it's like I should be going with you. Oh, you're taking all the stupid with you, or something like
Yeah,
that.
because he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing because he would do the same thing if he was going to
that's
put
what
in that
happens when you're-
situation.
Yeah, but would he
People, let me
stop him
tell
being
you about
turned
my
into the Winter
best
Soldier? Like, would he
friend.
really sit by and let his friend supposedly die and get taken and do all these horrible things?
can't change the past.
You can if you're living in it. He stopped Peggy
He-
from getting married to someone
He would have
else.
had to go back to that train where Bucky fell off to stop that from happening.
But no,
Bucky fell on the ice before him.
Then Cap had to have gone and gotten to 1970 and stayed there with Peggy. He had to have missed out on 20 or 25 years of being with Peggy. That's the only way that makes sense, is because at that point Captain America would already be in the ice from having done that.
In 1945, right?
Yeah, so he would already be in the ice, and that was the last place he had Pym particles, or that's the last place he really had to go, was to return the Space Stone. So he goes back, that's where Peggy is, and then he stays there and lives until an old man. That explains why he's not, like, super fucking old. I mean, how old would he... That's another thing, is like, did he get the super soldier serum? Because
I
the
think
jacket he's wearing is the pre-serum jacket. Like, that's the early Captain America jacket
I
when
just
he's
think
old
he's
man.
just an old man. He has like 5 copies of it in his closet, and he's had it for a long time.
Well, we're talking about he's in his early 20s when he gets turned into Captain America. Goes through the entire war, which let's give it
So yeah,
5-6 years.
So he's like 30.
He's about hitting 30 when he comes back into modern day. Lives
10 years.
10, 15 years
Yeah.
into the future. So now we're
Well, it goes from
45.
2013, which is when Winter Soldier takes. So 2012 is when he comes back. 2023, so 10 years.
But
Okay.
10 years, so he's about 40.
But to be fair, he could also just be aging slower. So I mean,
he is
even though
aging
he's-
incredibly
Right,
slower
right.
because it's always shown
But
that
you
in
saw
the
how old
comics.
Peggy was when she dies in Winter Soldier or Civil. You see her in Winter Soldier, but she dies in Civil War.
She was about. Oh, let's see. It was 70 years when he went in the ice. He went in the ice in 93, 94? 93, 94?
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody's hearing what you're talking about
Okay.
right now.
Well, he went back in the ice. Yada yada. I forgot what I'm talking about. I'm kind of tired. I have to be up at 5 in the morning.
Oh,
Sorry.
damn, dude. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. Look, thank you for joining us for a review of Avengers Endgame. We tried to cover every single thing. If there's things that we
It's
didn't talk
impossible.
about,
There's
it's
just
yeah,
way
there's
too
This
there's
is
so
part
much.
1. This is the Infinity.
this is the broad spectrum.
Yeah, this is the
we're
Infinity
we're
Talk
coming back for
with
in-depth
theories.
topics.
We're going to bring
theories.
Stu back and explain the entire plot to him without having
Please
seen
don't.
it. Just
Without spoilers. Oh, that'd be.
Wait, can we do that with action figures?
Yes. Yes. All right. And then I have to
Thanos.
get all
Or
the
at least
action-
little cardboard cutouts. somehow.
Honey O's. All right. Anyway, so thank you
Thought
so
you were
much
Build-A-Bear.
for watching. Please share this with anyone or don't. Like this video. I want to thank Ryan for being here. He'll be here on another Stuvies. And, of course, Aaron. He'll be back again. Stay tuned for more content. Good luck, Stu, with the Battle of Winterfell. I hope everything goes great with that whole Night King guy and everything. And we'll see you next time. Peace
Yeah.
out.
Goodbye.
Bye.